4 minutes. Right. Let's switch off the lights here in front so you can see a little better. How's everyone? You guys are good? Are you awake? For now? Let's try this. For now, alright. Don't fall asleep. Trying to be as entertaining as possible. Alright. Welcome to the session. What we're going to do today is, sure, then can I have your attention please? What we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at 3 sections of the class. First, I'm going to review what I've done last week. Because a 4-hour block like last week is like brain dead at a certain time. Yeah? So I want to run through some of the highlights. If you keep those highlights awake in your brain and in your mind, and scribble them down, if you go back and studying for the exam, it should trigger a few highlights. Okay? If you read chapter on residential uses and you think, hey, this is something we talked about in class, the more overlap you usually get, the better is that hint, hey, there could be a question. So the last 5 minutes I had a few folks asking me about the exam, how I test, and apparently you guys are scared. I don't know yet. I will promise you guys it's going to be a paper-based, handwritten exam. No computers, no multiple choice or multiple options or something like this. I'm not going to ask for a specific definition unless the definition was named a few dozen times in this classroom setting. Alright? We only had like 1 or 2 like this before, so far. And it's coming in the book as well. I thought about how I will test you guys in the exam. And what I usually do in classes, I give somewhat a study guide. Why? Because I don't ask you true, false, yes, no questions. And you have to get an idea on how I am going to ask you questions. If you have never done a short essay, like half a page or even a full page, yeah, a few hundred words, handwritten, 100, maybe 200, I don't know yet. It's usually top of a page, a question, you have all the space of that page to answer. Worst case, turn the back side. Don't know yet how many questions I will do. I don't think I need to cover a 4-hour exam in the 4 hours we have time. I told Diego this is my first undergraduate class I'm teaching here at Nova Southeastern. So I don't know how other professors are testing you. I'm more than open for suggestions if you want to give me some feedback later in a break or something. I'm thinking about 4 to 5 questions, maximum of 2 hours. Usually I count 15 to 20 minutes if it's handwritten stuff for 1 question. It's plenty of time in the past. If you know a little bit the pattern, the way I ask questions, the way I point out a few things, it shouldn't be a problem. Yeah? I was asked about the turnaround rate. Well, our exam is at Tuesday night. Then we go home, all sleep, more or less. I sleep probably better than you do. Just bad sense of humor, I'm sorry. And then Wednesday and Thursday, I'm pretty much looking at my schedule, sitting down to do your work. I created a graduate handwritten exam on Sunday. I was pretty much done in 8 hours. Completely done with grading, points, everything else. It was slacking. It was easy going. Lots of coffee in between, eating that. So I usually get it faster and same thing like Dr. Foggy. He was pretty much done probably the next day, was he? Or even on the spot. Yeah, that's how he does it. So we'll see. He's right now traveling, so he will be back, and him and I will have a quick discussion about the final grades, and then submit that. So Wednesday or Thursday after the final. Piece of cake. Okay? If you do the readings, this is my appeal to you guys in terms of freak out mode and anxiety. No panic. Did I switch that camera on actually? Okay.
The screen's on, I don't know if it's recording.
Does it blink red?
Yeah, it's blinking red.
So everyone who leaves later and all that who's not here yet. Yep. Alright, panic mode control. First of all, keep breathing. Yeah, no panic, breathe. If you do the readings, or will do the readings, take notes. Why? Because I'm asking you to write down the knowledge. So the moment you start taking notes, that writing is kind of in the learning process already in there, okay? It's the idea of, I can't ask you to write about how to play the guitar. I will give you the guitar and say, play it for me. Show me how you can play it, okay? So, that's one thing. Do the readings. If you have not done so, do them this weekend. Next week is our last session. Next week we're going to have a lot of fun, but a lot of boring stuff coming too. We're talking about law, planning law, land use law. Yeah? For me this is super exciting. That's actually the reason why I would go back to grad school or law school. Yeah? But we got to go through the usual aspects of planning law and how that impacts private and public property. Yeah? And different regulations in between that. So I need you to be completely focused on this, not worrying about the other stuff you have done or not done. Yeah? So catch up. I will give, like I do today, a quick review next week. And then we jump into the law stuff. And then we have maybe a quick conversation about the final version of the exam. Think 2 hours time. Fair questions, fair in timing. Yeah? Usually what I do is I write those questions and sit down and write that key, the way I would like to see an answer. Yeah? And then I triple or quadruple actually the time to have a good rule of thumb here. Alright? So there's nothing to worry about, nothing to go crazy. There will be no true false and no multiple choice. Like options and all that. It's going to be, here's a question, say, problem of blah 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 blah. Explain with an example. Or give a general context as a definition maybe, yeah, in your own words, and an example. In my real estate development class, when I give the exam talk, because they are also shaking sometimes. What is real estate development? Explain in your own words. Like you would explain to another student. Yeah? And they're like, ooh, I'm about to graduate in 8 weeks and I have not thought about that simple kind of answer. Okay? Breathe. Yes, please.
You say that the exam is going to be a maximum of 2 hours.
Are we scheduled for 2? No, I
think it's 2 hours. It's midterm, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a separate date in the syllabus. I didn't bring the syllabus. We can look that up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I count the Tuesday nights for me as 4 hours.
Yeah, it's 2 hours.
So it's a 2 hour slot.
6 to 8.
Yeah.
Oh, because I thought I remember the speaker.
So that, yeah, so it's a 2 hour slot. So what I'm going to do is I time this that you have plenty of time. Like I'm counting 90 minutes for you guys. If you are, we'll figure it out.
No.
Think about that. We have 4 chapters with subtypes on this. We have residential, we have retail, we have office. We have industrial and hotel. Then we have market theory, what we're covering today, models. I told you I'm not going to ask you for, let's say, numbers, but I ask you for the understanding of, let's say, microeconomic demand and supply. And how to, let's say, hint, maybe to do a sketch how something like that would look like in a model. I got a bunch of colors in front of me, I'm excited. Yeah? Yes, Mohammed?
Can I see the book, like the cover? Like which book it was?
You mean the book that is on the syllabus?
Yeah, I was looking at the book.
This one.
I
it from a friend and read it. Fine. Any other questions about panic attacks? I mean it in a humorous way. I'm sorry if you have the medical condition. This is serious. Yeah. Stacy, what's going on? It's funny. I'm not. Remember the stereotype of Germans? Remember the stereotype about Germans? We have no sense of humor.
You said now you're funny though.
Ah, okay. Do you concur that with the Germans and no funny, no sense of humor? Siggy?
Yes.
Germans, sense of humor? No. See, I'm sorry. I try to be humorous. I really try hard. Alright, residential retail office land users. Quick overview. This is roughly what you see in your chapter in the book. This is pretty much the menu you will see, what we understand about residential land uses in property management. You will see probably single-family homes and the multi-residential, multi-family buildings, aka apartments, etc., condominiums, the most. And then you have those niches as like second homes, timeshares, which are managed somehow differently. Today we're covering Today we're covering hotels, which is another way of facilities management and property management. It's kind of an exotic place. Yeah? But on the other side, why not? You know, a high school guy who turned into a hotel director. You know, high school friend. So you never know where we end up. It ends Marian Islands. So, alright, single family homes, multi-residential is one of the most dominant product types we take a look at. Yeah? We look at the relevance for a property manager and why this would be relevant now, aka the market analysis. Why are we doing market analysis again? Why are we doing market analysis again? If I talk too fast today, you gotta tell me. I'm hyper excited to be here to teach this class tonight. It's a highlight of my day. If I didn't say that yet, this is my highlight of the day.
To see if it's worth it, that area.
If you talk location, yeah. What if you, hey, come in. What if you talk, if you have the location already, why would you keep going with market analysis? Yes, please.
I should say to look at the risk you can like go into with what is it, horizontal and vertical.
You're mixing this up with mixed-use developments. Think about you're an apartment building. You have 150 units in an apartment complex down the street from here. Why would you keep going with market analysis and market research?
To see how much the rent for, how many people can afford,
What competition is asking for the rental market?
and their demographics.
Keep my demographics in check. Yeah? Is my customer profile changing? Yeah? Is my age profile in my current tenants changing? Yeah? Did I rent out to young couples in the 30s 2 years ago? Now suddenly I have graduate students between 25 and 30. Yeah? And they're doing like 3 roommates together rather than a double income couple. That is the difference. But particularly I want to know who else is on the market, who is coming onto the market, what's in the pipeline. Yeah? That determines different inventory, different stock. AKA, my market price will change. You have recently been out in the car on Griffin Road? Griffin Road and Davie? Now, flashback Diner, Davie Road, go south. That big intersection, that's this huge development coming up. If I'm not mistaken, it's Jeremy Betzel's thing that he's putting up there. This is changing the rental market in Davie. Because he's putting, I can't remember how many units on the market. Small, compact, fairly priced. So if you're looking at a small, compact, fairly priced unit, and you have something that was unfairly priced, you got to make that change. Today, I think, I was sitting there last time, made a comment about hoteling and the ice cream vendors on the beach, and we talked about McDonald's and Burger King together. Like stealing market shares from each other. Rental market is the same way. I put 100 units into the market, I'm stealing potential customers from someone else. Or there's so many people moving into this area that the net absorption is perfect and my market, my inventory that I put on the market is immediately absorbed. Yeah? So you gotta think about that. Will it make sense if you have hundreds or if not thousands of vacancy, units being vacant? Would it make sense to put another 150 units on the market? Only if you're really, really sure that your market research and market analysis for your product type and the customers you are seeking is a fit, is feasible. And trust me, there are a lot of questions in that due diligence process where you say, nope, this is the no-go decision point. Am I going to put a few $1 million into the ground for that or not? Taking that risk or not? You're going to quit on that and say, fine, market is not in that price level. This is part of the microeconomics, what we're going to talk today. All right? So here, market feasibility, financial feasibility. Can you actually do this? Now you want to make sure that you're able to deal with the risk factors at the end. All right, types, this is a little bit redundant, but you led into the mixed use discussion. With mixed use is the financial risk depending on the vertical type. Yeah? Because if it's horizontal, we can phase this into pieces over time. Yeah? Then we reviewed a little bit of urban theory. This is an example of how Ebenezer Howard's Garden City. Urban theory as in how can we change visible living space and conditions into more something green and colorful. Also starting out with the first idea of having 32,000 people here in the population, having 58,000 people in the population. This is one of the very first regional designs based on economics and livability, lifestyle. Yeah? And saying it's not just a city alone, it's a network of cities. With the network of cities, this was the example of London, we come to the network of uses locally. And I'm trying to balance today between region and local all the time. All right? If you don't know, are we in the bucket of region or in the bucket of local theory? Let me know. There's no stupid question. Yeah? You're here to learn. That's a steep learning curve. So, hands up or just yell at me and ask a question. Yeah? No stupid questions, only stupid answers, and I am trying to be professional and give good answers. Yeah? This was, again, a poor attempt to be funny, now you didn't laugh. All right. Fine. So mixed use. Mixed use is pretty much the definition of 3 revenue-generating land uses. That's what the ULI usually says. 3 revenue-generating land uses. All this is similar. Yeah? Balance of jobs, housing, and retail. Well, jobs is a commercial use, usually like office and retail. Yeah? Housing is residential, and then retail again. So 3 revenue-generating land uses. It's not a mixed-use development just because you have a big park and 1 house. It's called a farm. Yeah? Guy called Leinberger, we're going to have a little bit of sketching fun with this guy today, we'll see. Alright? Alright. Talked about this. Different dimensions. Okay? Important thing you need to remember, the challenges and issues or risk of mixed use is that we have different time and different risk depending on horizontal versus vertical. Vertical, you put this starting foundation, you dig the hole, put this into the ground, it's a lift off. Huh? Gotta go to the moon with this, like a rocket. Versus on the top, the horizontal dimension, well, if this one thing is not working out, I'll just wait 2 years to build the other 50 units in my subdivision. Worst case, I put some grass on it and create a temporary park. And your people in the neighborhood, speaking of local, your people in the neighborhood are going to be super, super angry. If you plant beautiful grass there, and this is going to be townhomes, 50 units later, in 2 or 3 years. You tell that 6-year-old who plays soccer with her dad on this grass that now it's a neighbor's garage. So in terms of communication, you might not want to do that, or be really clear. They understand, instead of 2 years of mud and dirt in front of them, you want to beautify that a little bit. All right? All right. Then what do we have to do for a market assessment? Any idea? It says here, market delineation. Got to know, where's my market? Am I going to deal with apartments in Davie? Am I going to compare that to Fort Lauderdale by Lauderdale by the Sea, or even to Boca Raton? Probably not. Okay. So know what's going on. We had an issue or an example of the travel time. That you need kind of set your boundaries in the market. For those in the Shark Cage program, what are we talking all the time about it? It's businesses from students for students on campus. So we draw the market barrier as in campus. Yeah? But then you can also go, depending on what you're looking for, your market will be different. Depending on what you're looking for as a good to sell, let's say, the loaf of bread versus the Maserati sports car, you will have different variables to delineate your market through them. Breathe. You guys are looking at each other like, all right. The delineation, if I go for so-called socio-economic variables, factors, the delineation for Maserati or Tesla is certainly income. It's not necessarily the geography of the market. It's not that there's an interstate or a mountain range, or the ocean. These are physical barriers. This is another slide. We're talking about, let's say, income and interest in cars. Yeah, you might have the income to buy a Tesla or lease it, but you might not like a Tesla and drive a Prius. Something like that. Or you just say, I need my Jeep. So different attitude and desires is also part of your market delineation and assessment. Think just when we talk about housing. The way you live at this moment right now. Who lives alone, if I may ask? If you don't want to give that information away, fine. Who has roommates? How many roommates do you have? 2, 3? Your parents do not count. If you live with your parents, don't count your parents as roommates. Who lives with the parents? Totally fine. So, you have different desires about that. Like say, if I still live with my parents, after graduation from college, I would like to find a job and I finally move out. That is a desire, or a plan, sometimes. Alright? Here we go. Natural features, built barriers, built environment, traffic. All this I can use for delineation of my market. You guys look at me right now like I need to just give you an example next week as in, hey, scribble on the board, something on the market delineation. Super simple. Just think about our market. Where does our housing market, on a regional perspective, stops in South Florida? Everglades and
The beach.
beach, the ocean. Yeah? That is super simple. And then you can say, well, a certain drive time up north, a certain drive time down south. Which is also completely wacko, because people live in Palm Beach and come down here, or even live in Boca and work in Miami, and travel 90 minutes, 2 hours a day. Yeah? So just arguing by travel time doesn't really work sometimes. Yeah? Particularly if you have the so-called economic means, aka the income. I'm trying to live close by where I work, so I don't spend 45 minutes, 2 hours in traffic. All right. Again, this is a review. I can post those slides, the review slides for sure for you guys. So you guys have to remember there are certain, yes?
For the product-specific constraints, it says MUD right next to it.
Mixed-use development.
Okay, thought it was an acronym.
Mixed-use development. My dissertation check came up with that. I wrote a dissertation about mixed-use developments, and every time I said mixed-use developments, he was cracking up because you write that on 200 pages, and it's getting a little bit long. And he's like, so you're modeling your through. This famous article in planning. It's called Modeling Through. Yeah? So we came up with the MUD. MXD is sometimes used. But if you do mapping GIS software, MXD is actually a mapping document. So I will not use an acronym in questions about mixed use, if I ask a question about mixed use. All right? Fine. Then we did something about retail, trade area models, etc. We didn't really talk about this in depth, but I just want to have you guys keep that in mind. When you go through the chapter, there's a lot of material spent and time spent on typology of retail centers, shopping centers, based on their age, particularly based on their size. Sawgrass Mill, according to the REE textbook, is actually a supercenter because of its size. When we talk about regional development and we see how we can make money, the retail center, the shopping center itself does not generate purchasing power unless you count the employees making money in it. It's an economics definition, left, right, black and white thing. Yeah? It only attracts the customers from existing stores within or beyond the trade area, and the customers bring the purchasing power, big bucks. Yeah? That means the bigger I get, the more important I have to make sure about my so-called attraction or attractiveness score for that shopping center. What's the excitement level when you go to a Publix and get a loaf of bread and a bunch of eggs for breakfast? Unless you have 6 friends coming over for breakfast, it's just a routine shopping thing, okay? What's the excitement about going to IKEA? That's kind of the pleasureful thing, huh? Don't go to IKEA without a shopping list. I'm telling you, your wallet will thank you. It's one of my bad things in my life is IKEA, shopping on my own without a shopping list. So, gotta keep in mind, anchors and magnets. You will see that all the time when you look at shopping centers in terms of retail. If you look around here, just around campus, go to the tower shops. What are the anchors there, or the magnets? Home Depot is one on the south side. What's a little bit north, a few boxes north of it. Costco, yeah, very far north. But if you look at the complete L-shaped tower shops, that's what? Home Depot? Best Buy? TJ Maxx, the shoe discounter, and then you turn around and you have what? A Michaels and a Office Depot? Office Max? Something like that. So you have all these kind of major retailers or anchor tenants, and then you have smaller shops in between, like a barber shop, sports clip thing, and nails and food, pizza and all that. Yeah? But you don't really have yet a big Verizon shop, Apple Store, or Walmart in that. Closest Walmart here, south of University Street, University Drive, and Griffin. It's a little bit hidden, it's not as visible from the street, but that's a super Walmart center. So you got to keep that in mind, that if we talk about typology, it grows by size. You will not have a neighborhood center with 4 or 5 magnets. A small neighborhood center will be what? In Dixie and a Publix, and then you have like 20 little shops next to it. Yeah? Some of them create more synergies, some of them don't create synergies. Not so well. Everyone understands the concept of synergies? Something that influences you in a positive way. Yeah? Like in food, you talk about pairing. as in this will go well with this, pizza and a cold beer or a Coke. Yeah? Alright, they're still doing what we do. Typology. This is me writing out what pretty much the tables say. The numbers sometimes will differ. Yeah? But it's pretty much classification. You have a neighborhood center, you have a community super center, but here, we're talking reviewing grade areas. You have here different ranges. Are you going to drive more than 5 miles to a super Walmart? Yeah, because it's not everywhere in place. Are you your Publix and your Dixie? It's pretty much all over the place. It's like I'm going north or south when I get out of my subdivision. I will find at least in 2 miles more of them. Yeah? And I live in the middle of nowhere. So then you go to also the regional center, super regional mall. Yeah, this is the last one. Yeah, this is 1 to 2 million cross lease area of space. The American Dream Mall is what? Almost 3 times that. They're considering that as a destination mall. Why? Because you hop in your car and you drive 3-4 hours to get there or more. Stay overnight. Because they're putting a water park and an amusement park inside of that whole thing. Yeah? We're talking today a little bit about something what was in the mid-90s, a phenomenon, what we call the so-called edge cities, which was about 5 million square foot in office. Huge. Yeah? Like really brand new city, just office places in the middle of nowhere or adjacent to something. All right, a little bit of theory. This is a picture you will see today a lot. You do not need to know how to draw this. You need to understand that there are different hierarchies based on different principles. This is your mom and pop shop. Example here is for cities, and in retail we can translate that. Your mom and pop shop, your Publix, your super Walmart, your mega mall. Yeah? Or even your IKEA, because it's a specialty type. Because, well, you might go to Sawgrass Mill, to the mall, but you also drive to IKEA. And IKEA is definitely smaller than the whole mall. There's a different desire to go there, different shopping experience, and different reasons. I'm pretty sure I can buy a couch in the mall somewhere. I won't be able to buy running shoes at IKEA. Yeah? Food-wise, Swedish meatballs, no doubt. All right. So when we talk about defining a trade area, and this is pretty much language from the book as well, yeah? Even though I quote someone else, the book talks about descriptive area and service area. All the stuff is about trade areas and modeling of the area of interest for your product. Doesn't matter if it's office space, multi-family homes, or if it's a retail shop. And you're trying to figure out the market for your products. It's the same way to do this. Descriptive area means where the customers are described or placed. Yeah? And then the prescriptive area is how you're going to penetrate the market with it. Please note, e-commerce, online shopping is changing that perspective. Because I can use my phone right now and buy something on Amazon.com. I can buy running shoes, I can buy a 4-flame burning grill. Yeah? Don't have to travel 20 miles to get to the next barbecue shop or Walmart. Alright? Then, this is not really in the book, but it's important to understand the theory behind that. The willingness of people, in this case is a slide from a research project I did. It said, here, willingness for people to travel to a park. So this is what we did for parks. We basically argued that depending on your desire to go to a park. It's also depending on the size of the park, depending on the attractions in the park. A small little neighborhood park here in Davie, it's nice for lunch breaks. Central Park in New York, oh, that's a road trip. Are you willing for your lunch break to just hop in a plane to go to Central Park? Not really. Not based on our socioeconomics right now that we are saying the college grads, college students, undergraduates. I don't park my private jet in my front yard. Okay? The idea here is the farther out I am looking at distance, I'm less willing to travel there. Alright? The other event why I would travel far, far, far away is my example of weddings and funerals. Because your awesome aunt just passed away and you're hoping to inherit that $500,000, yes, you're going to fly 7 hours. And you stay a night and you better get it. You know? Gotta have that. Gotta make that a little bit more music. I could say, well, you want to fly to Six Flags, New Jersey and go roller coasting all day? Yeah. So we're going to use this in the frictional space, or sometimes in economics terms, it's similar to the utility function. On that note, in your undergraduate degrees, most of you guys are business administration. You guys had a microeconomics class, did you? Who had never had a microeconomics class before tonight? I got you covered. I'm going to go through this very slow, simple examples, and I'm not going to be the brutal microeconomics professor that taught us through for 6 weeks with it. I'm touching you like for 10, 15 minutes. All right? Well, we'll come back. All right, supply side. Microeconomics, demand and supply. Yeah? And again, this is just a repeat. Just point out that we do have to figure out what's going on with the ideas of our customers and based on the location we're at. That one line that says lifestyle data, tapestry data, and Prism data. Tapestry and Prism are packages from market research companies. Yeah? And I think we did talk about that, about, let's say, the sports economics students with the yogurt and the amount of food in the fridge based on major of studies, age, potential income, shopping habits. You probably, again, in terms of the IKEA couch, you're probably buying a cheap one rather than the 5,000 leather one. Don't know. Trying to give you a different example. All right. Then we went to office land use. The chapter in the book about office land uses talks a little bit about what kind of classifications we have, what kind of descriptions, and actually talks about A, B, C, and D. And then you open up a bunch of other textbooks, and they're only talking A, B, C. D sounds like you're having a garage workshop. Yeah? Then we talk about where is the location of this, where is your office space, and we pinpoint this again today. It's not always downtown Miami, downtown Fort Lauderdale. We are talking about sub-regional centers, regional sub-centers. Yeah? A Candle, as an example. If you've ever been there, at least take the trip via Google Maps, and maybe Google 3D Maps. Yeah? Candle is, Kevin area, is one of the examples that you will find for edge cities. Massive office, more jobs than beds to work there. You can't sleep in the town. Yeah? Stereotyping here has changed, maybe. Yeah? So location is important. Then we will end with ownership at the end, because the question is, do you own this office space or not? Or are you just leasing it out? Or are you just renting it out by the hour? As part of the next few slides. Here, this is a visualization of the concept, what we call, yes please?
Kind of like an off-topic question.
Yep.
So like 99-year leases, how do those like typically work? Are you still paying them like each month or like how?
That depends on the contract. Yes, but usually you would do it by month or by year. So in commercial real estate, What you do is you don't do monthly contracts, it's $13 per square foot annual.
And how about like selling that lease? Is that like a whole different?
That's a whole different story. Because depending on your contractual agreement between the landowner, your land lease agreement, and your ownership and your tenants inside the building, let's assume you own the building at the same time still, all that contractual agreements, they should address actually resale at some point. Actually, when you sign it, you might really want to have a clause in there to determine how you are going to get out, while maintaining that other relationship between tenants. Otherwise, you do a crash and burn. Keep that for 10 years, you want to get out, and then you can't get out because you're bound in a 99-year contract. No. Alright, this is the visualization for the concept we call filtering. You have different office classes. You have the difference between the age, brand new is A, very old or relatively old is C. Then you have maybe the distance and location. Close to downtown, A, traditionally thinking, going down to the C space. And then here the typical tenant movement, which is filtering. To give you an example, you start a software company in the garage of your parents. Then you get 5 employees. Garage is too small. So you're going to go around the neighborhood, there's something open, small box office, small little thing. You get enough office space and you make enough money just to put like 5-6 people in cubicles and 2 suites offices for conference room and you as the CEO or vice president. Alright? So you move from the garage into a small office space, old DSL dial-up, something like that. Because technology might be also old in that area. Might not have yet fiber class internet connection. Okay? Then what are you going to do if you suddenly need to employ, or you grow and grow, and you end up with 20 or 25 employees? And you're making money. Now you actually are able to pay your rent in advance. Moving up to a B level. And at the end of the day, you're saying, hey, I'm so big, I can build a big tower in downtown. And create Class A office space. 30 years later, that Class A office space might not be brand new. We gotta rehab that and modernize. Alright? So if we talk about filtering, you're talking about moving from Class C via B, via Class into Class A based on the business cycle of your company. If you don't do so well, and you can't afford any more downtown, what's the downtown price in Fort Lauderdale for office space right now? Homework assignment. Alright? Figure it out. First case, Google it. Alright? I tell you, if you do it daily, it's probably $5 minimum $5 cheaper. Per year, per square foot. And that makes a difference because they're basically saying here, 10,000 square foot office, it's too much, 5,000. Alright? We have this example. This is going to be a repeat again. We will see this more and more again today. We're going to look at the rent per acre, or in general the rent in a downtown area or the center of our study, and then the farther you go out, the distance to that central place, you have different rent levels. Alright? That was my review from last week. So we got 4 hours of lecture and 40 minutes review. Not too bad. The plan is to have a break around 8. Like literally like a break. If you need to run to the bathroom, just run. You still with me? Yep. Number 2. Alright, I told you, start this whole thing again. So we're trying to explain today why we see something what is called a regional shopping center here. yeah, or something like a satellite city. South Florida is maybe not the best place to take a look at satellite cities, but I'll try to give you an example. Coral Gables. Oh, sorry, Coral Springs. Sunrise in Coral Springs. Coral Springs. Coral Springs is kind of the hidden gem in regional development. Why? Because they have all this cool stuff going for them, but they're not yet on that dense pricing market like in downtown areas, Miami, downtown Fort Lauderdale, or even the other outlets up into West Palm Beach. Yeah? Because they also don't have the beach as a close proximity. But they're really cool. So Coral Springs and the Parkland area are going to be very interesting in terms of existing shopping centers and being remodeled and repurposed, getting new tenants in. I have a bunch of alumni who deal with brokerage and acquisition. If they talk about projects in the last 5 years, it's Coral Springs. And Coral Springs is just a few feet higher apparently than Hollywood. So the biggest threat for them, sea level rise, is less biggest threat. So there are going to be interesting things. Alright, I think we stopped with this one last week, did we? Alright. Not going to sketch this, I'm going to tell you the story of that. So, there's this guy called Leinberger. Yeah, Leinberger's metro course. And he wrote a few very, very cool articles and argued that there's a metropolitan development trends of the late 90s. And saying, well, if we look at the trends on pricing and uses, we have different metro cores. First metro core, the inner city, the CBD. Yeah? Then we have the second metro cores differentiated by type. Yeah? Industrial, in this case, by timing, this would be railroads, industrial warehousing, manufacturing and all that. Yeah? This example here is you have one like a belt ring or a green belt and the second ring. Yeah? And we're looking at pretty much at this kind of freeway wedge putting out. Yeah? So, first generation metro core was pretty much in the 60s, prior to the 1960s. Mostly settlements in the downtown area, export and regional serving jobs, okay? Shopping in downtown or adjacent areas. Remember the good old department store? 4 or 5 floors high, you have everything on the different floors. I haven't found yet one in Fort Lauderdale. Good old department store. It's like a small pocket mall and you have everything you need. Yeah? Or you go to the mall, but it's still on one flat level. Why? Because there was area to develop, land to develop, and you could phase it out. It was easier and cheaper to build this wide than this high. Yeah? So keep that in mind, depending on your building structure, you have different things. So, second generation. People are moving out, people are getting more mobile. Yeah? Emergence of new offices and industrial spaces, 2 to 6 miles from downtown. Downtown was crowded, couldn't build more, you were just hopping to the next thing available. Not to forget, sprawl. When we talk about sprawl as regional development, sprawl is not just moving out, it's leapfrogging. Because you can drive 10 miles out and build 5,000 units. And then have them commute, don't worry about everything else. Right? Then we have the second generation metro core industrial here, which includes now what we could talk now saying industrial parks. Yeah? Third generation. Again, this doesn't really work perfectly in terms of our region here, because we have those big natural boundaries. Yeah? But you could also say this is Fort Lauderdale downtown, and this is going towards the Everglades. Why? Because the rural office, industrial, or newer middle class income, that example could be West. You might have to adjust nowadays the income level, but in terms of physical manifest, how this works, could be West. Because West is fairly new. How old is West? Is West older than 50? Older than 25? Next homework assignment. Find your 3 cities, Davie, Plantation, and Weston as an example, and take a look at how old are they. It's actually fun sometimes to figure out how old are they. How old is this university?
40, 50.
Oh, we just had 50. Yeah, we had 50s already. 54. So we're gonna get some key marks on this. All right, key marks. Metro cores, 3rd generation, 70s and the 80s. Big box concept, retail office oriented. Fast growing area. Highly dependent on automobile. When we talk big box concept, means these ugly, square, black boxes, nobody cared about the design around it. So if you drive to the countryside at some time, if you do a road trip, take a look at old big boxes. They are really scary. Yeah? Then, 4th generation metro cores up to 12 miles out. Speaks about Western, huh? 12 miles out from the 3rd generation, low density, semi-rural character, overbuilds and fringe development, industrial metro cores have moved out, repeating patterns following highways. In our example, if I look at industrial, I'm at that intersection of 595 and 75. If you look at Google Maps, you don't have to drive out there, but you will see a lot of storage, smaller warehousing, smaller office parks, and then you see business parks around the mall and the BB&T center. Yeah? So this guy published this in 1996. Very much you can adapt this into our region right now as well. All right. So to finish this, what if industry changes? What if office space is changing? What happens then? What if a desire for other office space comes up? What are you going to do with the old office space? Demolish it or rehab it? Or classify lower and have other tenants that can afford cheaper rents to come in? Okay? What happened here as well is the example of so-called edge city, like being at the edge. Edge city, particularly in the 3rd metro course. Yeah? In that kind of area. Our original example is Dateland and or we call it Candle. Yeah? One famous example is Tyson's Corner in Virginia, where you drop 5 million square foot of leasable office space, 600,000 square foot of retail in combination to that. Barely no bedrooms unless it's hotel. Yeah? Only jobs, highly productive office spaces. Again, this is in 91, so things have changed already. Then you can take a look at the models and say, okay, fine, we have a corridor model here, and I'll show you a bunch of those models today. And then chapter 14 as well. Yeah? Where you have now a freeway and or interstate coming out, and with individual transportation. This is particularly after World War II. You can see how this is stretching out. Yeah? Central business as well. Here again, number one zone, and you have these kind of different corridors, and then different island development, and then you have these enclaves here in this example here, low density, high income. Yeah? Makes sense? Some of you just looking at me right now that you already lost at 7 p.m. Alright? This is about 100 years of how cities grew and regions grew. This is, I think, exciting because, let's see, my hope of the excitement is that you will look at maps, Google Maps, aerial photography in a completely different ways after tonight. Yeah? You do not need to remember that this is the corridor model. I will not ask you in an exam, explain a corridor model and sketch its vital elements. No. What I want you to understand that the 4 or 5 diagrams I'm putting up today, there's an evolution of how we try to understand how markets and cities and regions work. And I need you to understand the importance that you, as property managers in the future, you need to understand how that built environment came to its today and how future can be done and made with you. Does this make sense? More with philosophy. A little bit of philosophy, hoping you do some legacy work with your jobs. No? You're not going to build thousands of neighborhoods doing this, what Interstate did, but you're part of that machine. And trying to get something done with it. And if at all, this changed quality of life somewhere, for someone. Yeah? You as a property manager, you're essential in that function to maintain the happiness and the quality of life of that person. Because you're doing an awesome job managing the property. I don't know if James Connolly told you guys, but I would say it's not just a physical environment that you manage. You manage the humans inside the building. Yeah? If the humans are unhappy, it doesn't matter how well maintained the office, the building is. Okay? Comes even more to an important fact that if you deal with resorts and hotels, that the happiness factor is even more. Because it's not necessarily a daily life event. Resort hotel, 5-star resort hotel, they drop a lot of money for that excitement and that travel. It's not a business traveler who travels light for 3 days on the road, 5,000 miles flying. Okay? Good. So,
I'm sorry, on song number 3.
oh, I did cut that off. You should be with middle, we have high, should be low income, infill development, mixed use, eventually like growth. I can look that up for you. Important part, transportation-based enabled growth. You will not have seen this prior to World War II. Why? Individual traffic, cars, yeah, Model T came out, and interstate system. So it was super easy to travel now those 10 miles, or fairly easy. And housing programs for veterans. The typical American dream, the little single-family home with a front yard and a white picket fence. And remember, we did Levittown, and all these other development phases. That is part of the American dream. Where today we have to consider, does the American dream still exist? Should we chase that kind of dream, or is it a question of finance issues, conspiracy theory by the banks, to give you money, or to say, hey, look, I live in Miami. I don't need a home with a backyard and a white picket fence. I have a concierge and overlay service, and my condo is on the 15th floor. My balcony looks out into the ocean. Yeah? Different mindset. Versus, yeah, I'm okay spending my 1 or 2 hours every Saturday and doing gardening and cutting the lawn. Different. Here it's like, I'm a member of a homeowner association, I don't cut my grass. Someone is going to pay, I pay for that. Different mindsets, different desires of living and happiness. Alright. Other factors, when we talk about office development, particular, it's ownership. I only throw those buzzwords out. You just have to think about what are the different types of ownership and why is the function of ownership important for office space. So why is the function of ownership important in office space? Teddy, any idea? Why is the function of ownership important in office space? Pretty much not there. By your own words.
I guess in the case of like a larger office space like that, how do you give it to just either one person or one entity makes it a little bit simpler versus the tenants or leasers, and then so it's a little bit easier to manage. And
Okay. Easier to manage, I would say full control on the property, but also full responsibility. Yeah? Would you, as a business owner with one person, maybe one employee, build and maintain your own office building?
I think we would use other companies to help, like,
So you might actually build this whole thing, but you have like multiple tenants for income producing revenue. Yeah? It wouldn't make sense for a company with 2 employees to build a whole office building, like building this size. That doesn't make sense. If your company is large enough, let's say by your employees, size of the employees, you might end up saying, hey, why don't we build our headquarters? Remember, remember, we had Class C, Class B, and Class A as a filtering process. And again, the trick of the filtering is not filtering down. It's C, B, A. Not like we think about filter and something trickles down. So, why would I build this? To sell, to manage, build, own, run for your own company as a headquarter. My LLC for consulting does not need an office headquarter. A regular postal address and a lawyer's office is good enough. Okay? And of course, we have the size and flexibility. Speaking of office spaces, different forms, ownership. If you Google flex office space, you get like 2 or 3 advertisements. This is one in Miami. Well, basically say here, private office, $500 a month. Dedicated desk, $350 a month. Yeah? A hot desk, which I guess is a swap, is $220. So what they do is they deliver your phone number, they deliver you some postal services, a back-end office, some assistance, as in here are hundreds of envelopes, can you mail that out for me, and all that stuff. Yeah? But you do not own a whole office.
Those are virtual, right? Virtual office?
I have not visited them, but that picture, that screenshot is taken this morning. Yeah? So this is, as of today, what you can see in Miami in that WeWork office space. Well, this is Access in downtown Fort Lauderdale. There are off Las Olas, the Riverwalk, around a little bit west of the Cheesecake Factory, I think. I didn't take too much attention to the location, but this is the first floor. I have a bike, skateboard parking, yeah? Community standing desks, graffiti column. Yeah? They have a bunch of hip spaces. Hip is still used as a word for groovy and cool. Yeah? But that's the entrance area. Second floor, we have larger office suites, big team office. Yeah? That is a nap room. A nap room. A luxury you have if you grow in the office spaces, you maybe have a couch. They have a nap room. No, if I haven't been there, you should do a field trip there. You guys should check this out sometime. I will check this out for sure. If I hear a nap room, I remember that movie Internship, no, weekly internship.
Yeah, it's called the internship.
The internship?
Yeah.
No, the other one was the intern. The internship. Remember those space bulb things where they bubble and talk? Yeah. A nap room. I don't know what they mean with the conference room fire. That's just probably the names of them. Yeah. But kind of cool. Third floor, office space. Yeah, but you rent, as in Miami example, this is for Florida. Miami example, you rent it out by month. I do not know, didn't check the terms of agreement, do not know if this is, you gotta rent this by month, or 3 months or half year. Yeah? But it also can mean that this is your desk. You might be able even to sign in, come in and say, well, last week you have been at that desk in room number 3. Today, room 3 is completely occupied. Use number 13, that desk. And you're doing, let's say, your back office work for about 4 or 5 hours, and you come back tomorrow or next week. Complete different concept. You're not working anymore in your living room, yeah? Or in your garage, or in your basement. You also have a concierge service for your office space. You have someone picking up the phone and saying, hello, blah, 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 LLC. What can I do for you? Oh, he's not here today. Can I leave a message? I will contact you. Huge. You have some human that makes a call back for you. And then 4th floor, private offices, yeah, a little bit more intimate and set up. I don't know about the interiors. I was more interested in the floor space. Funky idea, property manager for a flex office space. We gotta get a lot of customers in and out. Yeah? All right. And Lineberger's model, think about where are locations that are now old that could be rehabbed. We don't have land available really in Broward County, so infill development and rehab is going to be the theme for the next few years. In terms of market area, office interacts differently than residential, than retail. Yeah? Office is also not necessarily outside of the flex space something you deal with on month to month. As a property manager, why don't you like month to month?
Not guaranteed revenue.
Not guaranteed revenue. There's a vacancy. Tenant improvement time, where you actually have to put money down, put new floor in, carpet, change the outlets, change technology. Yeah? So typically what you want to do is you want to do a multi-year contract with set conditions and say, well, okay, fine, you're doing a 3-year contract with me, in the 3rd year you open up, you have an option to renew. Right now, these are the potential options for renewal. You can stay, you get a cheaper price, or you can stay with XY price. And or I will do what we call tenant improvement. In 3 years, I'm going to take all the old carpet out and put new carpet in for you. And that's part of the deal. Or in 3 years, Judson decides, nah, doesn't want to deal with me anymore. He moves out. So now, after 6 months, no tenant anymore can rehab this place, or must rehab the place. And then 6 months later, hopefully just a month later, I get a new tenant who signs only a 2-year contract. So long-term contracts are binding subscription. And Shark Cage people, it's all about membership and subscription. Why is the 1 year with Prime X dollars? Can you get half a year with Prime with Amazon? No, you sign up for a trial, and then you do a whole year. If you sign up for, let's say, the movie channels for a trial, what's it, a week, 2 weeks? It's what, 1 month HBO, but 1 week only on Netflix with Amazon. And then by week or by month renewal. So keep that in mind. This is a mathematical example. How would we actually compute new office space? We would take the estimation of new employees for the type of office space in question to come in. Now in this example, let's say 2,500 new employees come into a region. Right now we assume that the specific type of office is using 210 square foot per worker. That's some rule you have to calculate. And then you basically run this through the simple equation here, and then say you find just about 230,000 square foot in that region. What if I have a new concept? I'm telling people, hey, you know what? You don't have to come in on Mondays and Fridays. You can work from home. What we call now the concept of telecommuting. What if Teddy and Gabe share a desk? They're working from home. He comes in on Monday and Tuesdays, Wednesday morning, because Wednesday is team meeting day. After lunch, after team meetings, you disappear. And Teddy comes in on Wednesday for team meeting, stays Wednesday afternoon, does Thursday and Friday. All the other days, they are both working from home or on the field, in the field. You know? So technically, I just say, for those two guys, sorry, I put you out. But those two guys, I need one cool little office space. I can make even squeezable small. Where in worst case you actually have lockers for personal stuff. Huh? Teddy's family and girlfriend, Gabe's family and girlfriend, something like that. Okay, stop picking on you guys. They come in, open the locker, put the pictures up for the next 2.5 days, that's their workspace. Oh, when you're done on Wednesday at lunch, wraps up, puts in, based on the computer, we do that every day in a computer lab. Now we're using a computer for 20 students during a day. Hopefully it's more than just 20. Just log in, perfect work environment. So telecommuting is different. So we also could do that then in suburbia, in a somewhat more regional context. If I do telecommuting, do I need to be in downtown Fort Lauderdale? No, I can be in Sunrise. Sunrise might have different prices for office space than here. Yeah? So I also can say, Teddy and Gabe don't need 210 square foot. They're fine for those 2.5 days with 160. That means I now calculate a different square footage in the need for that office center. Makes it different because each square foot is what? Capital binding. It is a cost associated with that. All right. Let's do a quick break. Now, because I want to take that next step is industrial. Let's take a break, come back refreshed, take a look through industrial and warehousing, or take a short break again, and hit theories. I strongly recommend you guys to take notes for this and the next section. 1 or 2 papers on the computer is fine, but maybe start writing notes on by hand. Because I test you in handwriting. I'm testing your skills in typing. All right? 5 minutes? Okay? You're about as excited about a break like me showing you PowerPoint slides. All right? It's employment coming in, the regional share, times the size, square footage, and here is the capture rate. So you actually, what you take off away from the other regions.
That's the one.
No numbers on the exam. I will not ask you equations like this.
Oh, I found the 11s.
Alright? Promise you I'm going to be the qualitative guy.
That's actually what I did before, but I got the 11th edition because of the limited stock.
There's a huge difference between Tesla.
That's the thing, I have no idea.
And I feel like even if you ask them, they're just going to be like at the 11th edition.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like things have to, I don't know if things have to be like really updated.
Usually, because my mom's best friend's a real estate, she has to update her license every so often.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
in my head,
Yeah.
So in my head, I'm like, if they have to update it, they're teaching the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I found it for 30, and I was like, are you sure you're gonna even read the book? It's sitting in my car.
Have you read it?
That book. You should read the book.
You're gonna for this.
Yeah, but like last time.
Oh yeah, I know. Last one you didn't really.
I just like, I'm like, I'm gonna read. I'm gonna use the note.
Do you know where he was posting?
I don't know, man. He posts something weird. Yeah, I need to start like noting.
I need to really read that. What's up?
You yelled at your name.
Yeah, she did. What?
No, literally.
Oh my god.
She's ranting. It's fine.
Genau. Ja, das muss ich was.
His notes are helping, but I kind of because it's all theory.
Yeah.
He's like, I might as well wait and take down because I'm not going to
Should finish that.
He's not going to.
Alright, so let's talk about
They already asked.
industrial land uses. So when we talk real estate on industrial land use, what do you think we're talking about?
Talking about like manufacturing facilities and
Manufacturing facilities, what else? Warehouses. Warehouses is hot. Like, really hot stuff. What else? Chemical industry? Do we do that? Manufacturing is like a little bit more crafty man thing. Yeah? Are you talking about big, large, city-style chemical plants for real estate? Only if you do corporate real estate. If you're working for DuPont or BASF, two big, Merkel, what was it, aspirin guys, Monsanto, you're doing corporate real estate. That's different. Yeah? When we talk about real estate here, industrial, I'm going to point out warehousing. Rail yards can be a thing. Don't forget, there's huge land covered under rail tracks. Usually privately owned rail tracks. So if you want to take a look at different ideas for property management, it's not just single family, multi-family homes. Take a look at corporate real estate. Some really interesting, cool stuff to do. Yeah? Amazon.com, they have not just one headquarters, they're looking for a second headquarters, they also have regional offices. You know? So you guys are on track to deal with some really cool stuff. I'm going to take a look at industrial, and take a look at the idea of where it's actually coming from. I put in here freight modeling. Why? Why would be freight important for industrial land uses? What? Go ahead.
because it's a major method of shipping.
Shipping. Huh? If you talk Amazon.com, what else do you have in mind with Amazon? Warehouses, fulfillment centers, and a 2-day delivery. Or something like that. Or it used to say 2-day delivery, now they say 2-day shipping. It's different because it takes them 5 days to pack up something and then ship it. Yeah? There are certain replacement costs involved, but then also when I talk about industrial factors, and this is part of more the idea of regional development, because the lecture today focuses on regional economics. Then I talk about government incentives. Big Toyota plant in Indiana, huge employment center. You know, a classic example here is Mercedes-Benz in Alabama. Or a Amazon headquarter number 2, or a American Express headquarters up the street, or regional center. Yeah? And there's certainly government incentives in place. One of the incentives I can give you is, hey, if you come to my city, for the next 10 years you don't pay taxes. I'm okay if you bring 2,000 employees. I'm making my money from the purchasing powers of these 2,000 employees because they're buying goods in my neighborhood, in my area. They're going to buy for 2,000 employees loaves of bread and one Maserati. Yeah? They're coming and using what we call so-called multiplying factors. With every X amount of employees, one barber shop more in the town. With every other X amount of employees coming to town, maybe a small mom and pop shop or the next little restaurant. Yeah? So there's a critical mass of people you need to have in your population with employment to maintain other offices. We're going to close tonight with two big buzzwords: location quotient and base multiplier. And there's an idea, terms how we can describe a region and or a city based on its economic theory behind it. An example is the base multiplier. As an example, if you are a company coming to town and say, hey, I am presenting a specific type of industry, a specific type of sector in that industry, I will bring in let's make it simple, 1,000 people. And you calculate that the base multiplier in that area is 5. Those 5,000 people coming in, so that would be a basic sector. A basic sector is a very strong function in your region. It's causing other industries in the region to flourish. The calculation would be with 1,000 new jobs, you create actually 5,000 total because you bring in 1,000 and creating additional 4 into that. Does this make sense? Total of 5 is going to be created because 1,000 are coming in. On the other side, if you have an industry that is dominant in an area, and you say, hey, we're going to cut jobs, and we're going to cut, used to be in the town I used to live, the example, we're going to cut 200 computer engineers from the HP plotter division. 200 people in the next 2 years are gone, job-wise. Based on what they are doing there, based on their income, based on the multipliers in the economy, you could say there are additional few hundred people impacted. Because you suddenly don't have those engineers going for pizza night on Thursday night in that pizza shop. It would be as simple, it's the ice cream place around the corner because 200 people less are working there, 200 families are not working there anymore. Because one engineer might have a wife or a girlfriend, spouse, as a partner, and 1 or 2 kids. They're selling the house and leaving. Now they're selling the house, and you have another regional factor change, housing market. Yeah? So the idea here when we talk about regional economic indicators, that's the buzzword, everything you do in a region with employment has impact on other things. We're talking about multifamily homes and apartments. Those people need to have income to pay your rent. So if there are no jobs in the region or you're losing jobs in the region, it doesn't matter how many people are moving in, unless they bring in their own personal incomes. AKA they don't need to live in your apartment, they rather rent out the condominium on the 15th floor or buy it. Here's a suitcase cash. Yeah? Alright. So, I'm looking at warehousing and industrial land uses in particular. It's a very interesting thing here now in Miami-Dade in Broward County because we have certain, for warehousing you need some minimum space. A 2,000 square foot warehouse, that's a storage unit. It's not a warehouse. If you go up or here around the corner on College Avenue and past College and Nova, past the gas station to the right, there is a warehouse on the left. 50,000, 100,000? It's not too small, but it's fairly big for right now here. Yeah? So when we look at this, we look at industrial spaces and a combination of such. R&D, research and development. Yeah? You don't need to have a pure warehousing park. You can say, okay, fine, I'm zoning something as a research and development that gives you legal freedom to have multiple uses in place. And so it's not office or residential or retail. I can use that as kind of a development zone. You can come in and do whatever you want. One example includes a regional distribution center for Walmart, small high-tech companies, and recently even a brewery. They're still in the same R&D area, okay? We can mix them in a park. Warehouses, again, do not create purchasing power. This is important. Are you going to make property taxes based on a warehouse? Yes. Do you have employees in a warehouse? Yes. The money you make with a warehouse is the rent they pay and the utilities they use. So if you're a small town and a big warehousing complex is coming in and you happen to own the utility company that will deliver the energy to that warehouse, and remember, it's a big box. They have 24/7 full light in there. Nowadays LED light and all that, but they have a high energy consumption. That's a golden win if you control the energy towards them. All right. I plotted today Walmart distribution centers. So if you take a look at this map for South Florida, you can see they're in a strategic placement. Yeah? That's the Walmart photo center. We don't count it as international distribution center because of Port of Miami. Yeah? And maybe us too. But pretty much Miami. Yeah? Then you can see there's a certain pattern here, how far they are away, where are they located. Yeah? It's also like a web, strategically placed on high traffic connections, super fast on the interstate, and in terms of spacing, this is a little dated. Yeah? It's about 4 or 5 years old, but you can see this is all over the place. Even those very large distribution centers. Yeah? Then, this is my story. You ever heard about NASCAR? Yeah? Those stadiums are big. Yeah? Ever heard about Dover, NASCAR? Dover, Delaware? So this is Dover, Delaware. The NASCAR arena. Yeah? The reason why I present this is because I used to live close by. And the weekend of NASCAR in town, you leave the town. Because all of this is completely full. This is one of the Dover regional malls. Yeah? Just to give you an idea. And a little bit up north, that's the reason why I present that, because you might have seen a speedway for NASCAR before. And I don't know if they're all the same size, but they're fairly okay in size, okay? This is a Walmart regional distribution center. You are looking at the top of a building of 1.1 million square foot. Yeah? Every little white dot here is a regular trailer truck trailer. Yeah? And they're moving them around with little push cars like you can see with the airplanes pushing around on the airfields. This whole thing is 300 acres. Yeah? They got an extra street in here, they got an extra delivery street here. This is an extra fire pump station. And let's take a different look, different angle. Yeah? Every spot here is one of those big Walmart trucks. So next time some Walmart truck in the street appears in front of you or next to you, don't even start counting them. Bunch of loading docks, hundreds of them. And what they do all day and night, is they're going to just sort out what comes in just in time. They're so timed that they are within like 5 minutes timing, arrival and departure. Apparently the Walmart truckers are actually getting a penalty if they're too early or too late. So you rather see them on State Road 13 somewhere parking with their flashers and blinkers on and stalling some time before they show up, because staging area here and here where they can actually drop things. It's very limited. Yeah? So this is also a research park. So you can see here's a brewing company recently built in. They wanted to go actually into downtown. Town manager said, hey, why don't you use this place? It's going to be a new attraction, it's cheaper for you guys. Yeah. And this is the electric substation down there, and you see there's a gym and different other places. Yeah, really cool. The reason why I present this example, the former town manager is my personal mentor. Yeah? And I worked for that town after the whole thing was built. That's a great story to talk about the issues, how they built that whole thing. Yeah? 1.1 million square foot. Every day, every night, lights inside, full air conditioned. The town owns the utility company. Really cool. Like 4 or 5 people are running this whole thing, and 900 to 1,000 people are employed there. Yeah? How are those monsters, how do they look inside? How do they look from the inside? That's the next few slides. Yeah? We actually can, no we cannot. If we talk warehousing, one major factor why you make money on the market or not is the building height. How many doors you enable for trucking, and what size you deliver. Those guys are coming in and tell you exactly, I need that kind of square footage and that kind of building height. Why would they need a specific building height? Racks. With 2 or 3 more feet in building height, you get 1 more rack level up. 1 more rack level reduces the size you need as an area or expands the volume. Remember, retail and warehousing is in 3D. The higher you can stack it, the better. The closer you can get, the better. Yeah? How does this look like? Oh, I have the example first. Yeah. This is a brand new piece called Milk. The Miami Industrial Logistics Center, down in Hialeah. Down here. We are about here. You have a Google Maps there. This is a brand new design, having alumni working for them. Let me show you this. Let's do 3D. This is actually an older picture. So they actually, what they do is you can see here how they rack this up, ready to tilt wall this. So you can see that they're here. This is actually the side of the building, not yet built up. You can see actually here the grain. See that? Wall, wall, wall. Not yet, not yet. What they're going to do is they form these walls on site in the flat, and then flip it up, tie them up with joints, and then put the roof on top. Really cool. They actually built like 3 or 4 in that area. So if you look carefully, these are the ones. Those are the ones in it fairly done. Yeah, 2,000 square foot office suite. And if you flip around, you can see the loading docks being built. They're not done yet. So I'm going to go back. We'll close this out. Yeah, so this is a rendering of that 2,000 square foot box office space. Fully air conditioned, 3 or 4 big offices, big lobby, fully maintained, maybe customizable, but they pretty much say this is what you need. Okay? 32 feet clearing height. 32 feet clearing height inside the building. That is higher than the regional standards right now. That's the reason why they're doing a great job, and that's the reason why they say, hey, we can get 50 cents to $1.50 depending on the location by customer tenants more per square foot. Yeah? How does this look like? Give you an idea. This was a field trip last summer. This is a 100,000 square foot unit. Give you an idea, this is one of my students, he was about this height. Now he was running through this to have the automated light sensor switch on as a part of running around. It's like he disappears. You could not see him. I had another video where he walks the other way. You barely could see him at the wall down here. If we stop this, this is Juan Carlos, 32 feet high. This beam is at 32 feet. Yeah? And they just put the painting inside the building. No air conditioning yet, all that. All right? This is how this could look like. This is actually full automated, high rec warehousing from Switzerland, as an example, to make you that extreme, but you can get a feel. If a spot here on the shelf is what we call the Euro size pallet, you can see the spacing in between. This yellow thing is actually how they actually move this out. Yeah? Different example here. This is the lift in between. Super cool, fully automated. This one is like 8 floors high. It's like in the middle of nowhere. Cool. Really cool. Aber Hammer, that's the company. Back in the days, you had someone go down to the archives or to the warehouse. Half an hour later, they come back. Computer algorithm optimizes the location where is what. Yeah? And they actually also know how many pieces are in which bin, how many times do they actually need which of these pieces, and then allocate where would they use to put a product of high use versus barely used. Why would they do that?
Accessibility.
What is in a warehouse your cost? Time. So if you have a high use product here, short path versus a long path. Yeah? So you're starting actually in 3D figuring out where would you place what if even the time to find it and get it back and package it is relevant. So different ideas on that. Amazon is doing great things with this. You could also argue that they're not so great in terms of the human sources they're going to use, or robots. Here you can see there's switches and crossings. There's a new technology where you actually have three-way rollers to move things crossing based on the computer pattern. Barcode used like your luggage on the airport. All right. The logistics outside. If you have this all inside, logistics outside is important. And we basically say, okay, fine, where are we going to place that? Close to an interstate. Why? Because this is the fastest long distance haul we can do. Very quick access. Don't have to haul through the half a town for half an hour. Yeah? Hop on the interstate and boom, in 2.5 3 hours you're in Orlando and drop off the stuff. Yeah? Time is the problem. Gas prices is the problem too. Yeah? So we just got, in terms of gas and time, we just got into the news again a little bit this week, actually 2 weeks ago, but Nova picked it up just a few days. Last year we did a huge project with a class, airport expansion up in Henry County. Yeah, Airplanes International Airport, really cool. Small airport, 3,000 acres in size, wants to grow into the size like Miami. Wants to deal with all the perishable goods that fly in right now to Miami and take that away. Not really take that away. Miami is actually happy that they will move that capacity because Miami has an increase in tourists, or planning on more tourists. Yeah? So you have a bunch of roses flying in a big plane now to Henry County. There's about an hour, 90 minutes north of here, 27, we follow 27. So past 75, you turn right on 27, and then the description is sugarcane, no, swamp, sugarcane, speed limit, sugarcane, turn left, sugarcane, airport. What? I describe the same directions if I'm in Nebraska or Iowa. Colon, speedway, colon. Where was I? Yeah. So we put that up, had a description, won a competition, but the idea here was also, it's not just flying in for the airport. also the time of change, how fast they can change, into trucks, refrigerated trucks. Did you know that if you buy a red rose for your sweetheart in Manhattan, it probably flew in via Miami? Yeah? So what if you are flying in now to Henry County, you save 90 minutes in trucking, that translates to $500 per trip. And now you try to figure out how many trucks and trailers are going to run on I-95 on a daily basis. And they save $500 per trip. They're 90 minutes faster, which translates in more resting time for the driver. Yeah? And the airlines did like it because they have different fees up in Everglades than in Miami. And the truckers liked it because in Everglades you will have actually parking around Miami Airport with your grid locked. You don't have to deal with all the traffic delays. Yeah? So here, close to interstate, high-speed connections when you do the modal change. Yeah? From one transport to the other one, to the next one. Port of Miami, one of the things they're running there is how fast they can change from ship via container to rail or truck. On that note, there's a great book for hurricane season or Thanksgiving reading. It's called The Box. Nobody's writing down book recommendations. Moby Dick in the Box we had so far. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's the story and history of the container. It's fascinating because now you see containers used as buildings. In 10 years you might be actually property manager of a container housing, where you have hundreds of little containers for student housing or affordable housing.
I have seen that concept of the mini theaters in Brickell.
Yeah, or mini, tiny homes, tiny houses. You're laughing. I had students teams proposing this for around the corner for a project.
I have a friend that lives in a campaign, Puerto Rico.
Well, that's maybe a different thing, is it? It's not like I cannot comment on Puerto Rico. I'm very upset.
They cost 20 grand.
Yeah, they're actually cheap. $5,000 you can buy them. What are you going to do with all these steel rusting containers? It's cheaper to build a new one, stereotyping here. It's fairly cheaper to build a new one, use it, and leave it somewhere instead of shipping it back empty. It's weird. Yeah. Containers are somewhat our plastic bags and plastic containers in different resources. Again, not an expert, but the student team actually explained that in their demonstration. And said, okay, there's certain pricing, certain amount of sizing, and then you can make this visually nicely and appealing. Yeah? It's on the real estate YouTube channel, so you can check it out if you want to. On that note, last Saturday we had EDSA partner and principal planner Kona Quay, my board chairman, presenting, talking about an hour about his career and what is important to make a career. Even if you're not a landscape architect, the career tips he is giving in that 45-50 minutes talk, it's beautiful just to sit down and watch this. You're like smiling and rolling your eyes. Yes, you can do that. Yeah? Fascinating story. One thing I took away from this talk last Saturday was the idea of, hey, who has a passport? If you don't have a passport yet, all the international students should have one, a valid one. But if you don't have a passport right now, get one. Travel, explore the world, educate yourself with travels. That was one of the messaging points he delivered to my students. And I picked 2 or 3 of the destinations he put out. Yeah? New Cairo's Cairo capital, that's how they call the city. Brand new layout in the middle of the desert. All right, drifting away. But again, here, logistics outside. If you have a warehouse, you have to know where you place it. You just can't place it on the country road. You have to have the capacity to deliver your goods from and to.
How do you call, for example, on the Turnpike South, before exit 25, there was a beautiful lake at the right-hand side.
I have no idea where I'm at on the map.
Oh, Turnpike South, it was built after they filled that beautiful lake with a lot of sand. They transferred that into the NBC Telemundo huge warehouse.
No, would have to look at the location. I have no knowledge about that.
How do you call that? For example, you use the land instead of having the lake and getting into that point.
Well, it's not really infill development, but you also, based on Florida regulations, you have to maintain the water consumption and drainage on your property.
Those are artificial lakes or are natural?
I don't know. I don't know the site. I can look that up and look at the history of the property, but I don't know. Probably has to be an artificial one because you probably won't be able to get a natural resource filled up and put something in concrete on top. I think there's some regulations against that. Yeah. Alright. This is another example where, let's say, a company called Kraft Foods is placing their productions and their warehousing. Yeah. Different locations, different centers. And where are we right now? Yeah. I got sidetracked with my inspiration for other ideas. So if you deal with industrial land uses, you also have to be aware of that you need to deal with land, with the floor plans of those uses. The warehouse pictures I showed you, they have been blank because they're customized in shelving and in layout inside. Yeah? So this is part of the tenant agreement, part of the negotiations you're going to have with the tenant. And saying, okay, fine, how long, not just how much you're going to have them pay, how long they're going to be your tenant, but what else do they want as improvements to come to you? Yeah? Could be for car manufacturer, could be incentives on the government level. Here we're talking inside a warehouse. How could you do the layout? Yeah? Flexible or constrained. Are you going to set this up and wait until someone comes? Or are you having someone already who wants to be customized? Yeah? Think about that. A regular storage unit, how much choice do you have? If you go for a U-Haul storage unit, null, nada, zero. You only can pick you can pick between 4 or 5 models, and then you say I need that for X amount of months or years. Yeah. Same thing like with the RoboVolts and all that. Do you have any customization for that? No, because you're not big enough with your 3 moving boxes and a bicycle. But what if you come in and say I need 200,000 square foot and about 28 feet high. And I will have, on a daily basis, 50 trucks in and 50 trucks out. That's a traffic impact. It also means I need to have some way to feed my truckers. Yeah? If they wait there to pick that up, or they might just come in, drop off, and within the hour they have a new trailer behind them and running. In our airport project, when you talk about trucking and all that, one of the major discussions we had is, what are you going to do with a trucker that comes in an hour early? What kind of amenities are you going to deliver? It's not going to be the pool or the clubhouse like in a multifamily. Yeah? It's going to be food, entertainment, and maybe some showers. Definitely showers. Yeah? That is a complete different type of industry. And the way we get exposed to is we see some truckers somewhere standing at a rest stop. Yeah? That's the only way we can get involved with those guys. Which is actually sad, because they're actually cool people. Yeah? And again, if you look at warehousing industry, the whole branch, it is, if I may say, it's a darn hot market. If you want to make money as a broker or a leasing agent, don't do single family homes as a real estate agent. Take a look at industrial warehousing space. Only a few doing business here. Every big company has like 1 or 2. Duke Realty in the example, they are like one of the largest companies offering warehousing in this area. Really cool company as well. And in case you don't like multi-family homes at some time, think about warehousing. All right, thoughts on the industry in general. I mentioned this with my example here. Walmart, just-in-time delivery, not the idea of just-in-time coming to a place. Amazon, FedEx, they will tell you they deliver by 8 p.m. or FedEx used to be overnight delivery in the morning before 10 a.m., something like this. You get one envelope, all that. Yeah. The call centers here, I have this interesting example here with Wilmington, Delaware. Wilmington, Delaware, I mentioned that you might know only from your credit card bill. Yeah, because all the credit card companies running their credit card company division, big banks running their credit card division in Wilmington, Delaware, because of the Delaware Banking Act 2 years ago, 2 decades, 94. Yeah, giving them some special rights in terms of employment, etc. So you ended up in having a bank coming. But the bank didn't really show up. It was the credit card company showing up as an LLC, and then 400 people in the call center. So your banking job turned actually into call center jobs. Different perspective of how you negotiate actually regional development plans. Yeah? We also have the idea of, okay, you have the difference between self-storage warehousing versus, let's deal 200. 500,000, or in Walmart example, more than 1 million in square foot. There are different scales at place. Economies of scale is that thing as well. Yeah? All right. Told you, 8 o'clock, we're doing a quick break. Stretch your legs, stand up. Even if you're not hungry or tired, stand up, walk a moment. All right, 3 or 4 minutes. I seriously mean that. Stand up, stretch your legs. I keep walking here.
Professor, is in Australia where they are building undergrounds?
Australia? What do you mean underground? Well, a concept we don't know in Florida is the concept of having a basement. Yeah? Basements are cool, as in temperature-wise cool. In summer, I used to move into the basement in summer. I am really serious. Stand up, move your legs. That's the reason why I do this mini break, so you can actually relax.
Wait, is this, what's the last topic we're talking about?
Hotels is coming.
We're saying until 10, right? Like, so
I try to be faster than 10.
we're saying 10.
What?
No,
There's no like 9 o'clock leaving, right?
You're in class and you're paying for class time, aka till 10. So technically I get in trouble if I let you guys go at 9 o'clock. Why didn't you give them the other hours of
Who
instruction?
said that?
My dean.
no one wants that.
Yeah.
Well, you're not the only one.
I know it's hard. Late nights is hard. I used to teach Thursday nights 6 till 10 for 8 weeks and then switch to Sunday mornings or Saturday afternoons. Now I'm teaching Saturday morning and Sunday afternoon back to back hours. That's the reason why I pace.
Are they not do you eat?
Huh?
Do you eat?
3 bananas on Saturday and then big crazy food at home. Big crazy food that's as good that I posted on Instagram and have people following me for food. Like sweet potatoes with pineapple and blueberries and other yummy stuff as on top, and a sirloin steak sitting there for 10 minutes to rest with lime. Takes about 15 minutes to make. Told you, I used to work as a cook in college. I paid for college cooking. Alright, 4 minutes up. Alright. So the next few slides is a little bit more relaxing. Put you guys into hotel and relaxing mode a little bit. Warehousing in hotels is kind of the hidden gems in the real estate industry. Again, when you think about real estate, when you think about real estate, what do you think about real estate?
Well, personally, commercial residential properties.
Commercial residential properties. If you think commercial, it's office and retail. Yeah? You don't think about warehousing. Yeah? You don't think about hotels. Hotels is a little town in itself. Yeah? For those few customers coming in to be pampered. Yeah? Just if you visualize, you walk into a hotel lobby, there's a doorman or bellman in the front, there's a concierge desk, there's the welcome check-in desk with 2 or 3 people behind it, depending on the hotel, maybe even 24/7. Yeah? You have the unlimited amount of service personnel that deals with your laundry, with your cooking, with your food, and cleaning too. Yeah? So it's not just being the hotel director, it's like all these hundreds of thousands of people involved over a year in making your life happy. Yeah? So, based on the classification of the hotel, there are different needs included. Yeah? So, you can segment them by price, location, amenities, and service. Yeah? There's a difference between a 1-star, 1-star, or 5-star hotel. There's a difference between a motel and a hotel. Yeah? Hotel markets as real estate development? Sure. There are actually a few companies down here in Fort Lauderdale that are specializing on that. They're buying an old hotel, they're rehabbing it, and branding it with a different company. Yeah? So take a look at that. And then the question here, rather more a cause of the internet, is the typical travel agent model dead? As in, back in the days, you would walk into the travel agency office, you sit down, you get a brochure, and you say, I want to take this. Or, hey, I want to travel to Bangkok. Can you get me to Thailand? And they would sit on a computer or call the airline, yeah, and we'll figure out what's going on with your connection. No app on your phone to go for TSA pre-check and all that, or your boarding pass. No. Yeah, the little wonderful printed out boarding pass, and you even have driving directions if you have more than your driving directions printed out on paper. Yeah? So this is an interesting question here. If you combine it with niche products, I truly believe the travel agent model is not dead, but it has to be customized to specific travels. Yeah? If I need a hotel in Seattle, I'm using web pages like Kayak, Priceline, Booking.com. Yeah? If I want to travel somewhere in Australia, I might have to do that a little bit different. Because that one night in Seattle is not going to be so critical. My other destination determines, my function determines of the travel as well. I will have that later on. Is it a business travel, is it a fun travel, or is it a specific type of travel for it? Okay? Alright, this is what we're not talking about. Okay, now I'll try to be humorous and Tracy doesn't even see this slide. Alright, we're talking more about these guys. Yeah? Wyndham as one brand, as an example. Yeah? Or we're talking about these guys. PDSA brand. Yeah? So the guy who talked on Saturday in my class, he was part of it, or his company was part of this. Like literally, story goes, guy calls him up Wednesday, swings by, and says, hey, can you make me a proposal for that island by Friday? Scribble, 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 proposals, building a long-lasting relationship. PDSA built, I think, all the Atlantis hotels worldwide with that relationship. They started with that first thing. All right? Really cool thing. That's used to be the Michael Jackson suite for what, $11,000 a night? That's the price I was told when Michael Jackson was alive. So, all right, back to the basics. We're going to talk about market dynamics today, regional economics. Again, I am not going to ask you for any calculations, but you might want to consider occupancy is a critical factor for a hotel. If you have all the rooms occupied, means you're in business. You're making money, somewhat, depending on the rate they pay. They all book the price line, you have a profit. Okay? We can calculate what's going on with the daily average rate. We can generate revenues per the availability of the rooms. We're not going to do that. Not in the context of this class. But you need to be aware that there are mechanisms I can run, like I do a pro forma for a multi-family apartment building. I can run models how my hotel should be occupied or not. Yeah? There's a certain percent rate of occupancy I need to have to make break even over the whole year. That's the reason why all this is done in averages. Yeah? So over a certain period of time, I need to have this. We're not just talking about for fun, we're talking about high seasons and low seasons. High seasons in Florida, or high seasons in Florida?
Summer.
Winter, November till February, March. May it's getting a little bit too warm again. And then July is burning hot, and then the hurricane season. Yeah? And then you have the festivals going on, and then depending on the location where you're at, if you look at Key West, good luck finding a 3-star, 4-star hotel lower than $300 a night. You won't find that in February, March, because of all the festivals and the high seasons. It's nice to hang out there. All right. Location is always a factor in real estate. Location, location, location. But in hotels, it's not just location, location, location. It's also hotel, hotel, hotel. Yeah? Talking about revenue generation, yes, they do generate revenues. The reason I put up direct and indirect is a little bit more material than in the book. Yeah? Remember when I talked about base multipliers? You come in with a company for 1,000 people, but you generate multiple other jobs in the area? A hotel does that too. People are flying in, people are working there to serve the guests. You gotta feed the guests, you gotta make them drinks. Where do you buy the drinks? Where do you buy the food for them? Yeah? If you go fancy and say, hey, from the farm to the table, you're doing organic food and all that, you're going to be a player in the local economy buying just simply lettuce salad, not just one or two, or broccoli, just one or two. You're buying it by the pallet, half a truckload. Yeah? So different economies of scale. Good. Going to list this. Everything we do has effects on other elements in the region or localities. Residential combines office, combines hotel. They like each other, or sometimes they don't. The Urban Land Institute made a really cool publication series, and one of them is actually mixed use. And mixed use developments, Schwanke, the author, has a table in there and says, well, the use of office really pairs nicely with all these. Yeah? So if I have a large office complex and I have a hotel, this is a win-win. Versus retail, entertainment, And recreation, yeah, it's still okay, but there are other things that fit better. If I have a very large convention center, thousands of people coming in, yeah, it makes sense that I have hotels around it. Why? Because hotels is a high density of bedrooms for all these thousands of people coming in. You ever heard about San Diego, city of San Diego, California? Yeah? You ever heard about Comic-Con? Yeah? Well, Comic-Con here we have is already cool. Think about 140,000, 150,000 people for 1 week in little downtown San Diego. All the hotels are packed. People from outside of the region, everything's packed. Yeah? This is when you talk about dealing here with recreation and entertainment and how we combine that. It wouldn't make sense to build one hotel in the middle of nowhere, unless there's something really cool to see, like a Grand Canyon. We've got to have that amenities synergy effects. Alright. I'm going to run into the idea of urban form. How we manifest in the region and into downtowns. Yeah? And again, product type of hotel depends where you place it, what kind of use you have, what kind of size it has, what kind of prices you ask for. I will repeat that next week. A lot of information. I think we need to see this 2 times. I'm not going to ask you, give me an example of a bed and breakfast. But a general idea maybe of why hotels are really cool to consider as a product type for property management. Something to think about. When you go back and read that hotel chapter, think about how and why would that be cool and needed for you as a property manager. The idea to close out today comes back to a discussion. How is all this, or how this all relates to property management? The 4 chapters you read until today. How does this relate to property management? It's not just introduction to real estate principles and a little bit of law and market analysis. Why is this relevant for your education as future project managers? Property managers, PMs. Yeah? Otherwise it doesn't make sense if you can't translate and reflect that. Alright. Services are different. Physical form is different. If you go on a trip and you just stay 1 night only, and you know you're driving the next 1,000 miles again. You don't need a 5-star hotel. A nice cheap hostel or motel is good enough. Why? Because you're fine with a shower and coffee in the next morning. Right? You're not going to sit there in a spa, have your fingers and feet made, and massage. At least that's how I travel. I need a shower and a coffee in the morning, not the massage stuff. Yeah? It's nice, but not for a road trip. Yeah? Versus the physical form, convention hotel, lots of rooms to meet, small boutique resort hotel in a nice countryside as an example, or somewhere at the beach. It's different. As I mentioned, I'm a diver, so I look at dive locations. There are actually hotels extra for divers. They'll literally say they have a house reef, 24/7 tanks allowed. So you just meet people at breakfast and say, hey, this afternoon, 4 o'clock, take a tank and hop in. Fine. Again, physical form and function. Convention hotels, conference centers versus here the question. Is Airbnb a competition for hotels?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I feel like no matter how many Airbnbs you have in a room, you can't compare to the density of rooms that you have at like a large hotel. You won't be able to.
Okay, I like that answer. So he says, if you look at the density function of a hotel, 150 beds in one larger building, you can't compete, the Airbnb can't compete with that. But my counter, that's the reason why I said maybe, is if I have 150 people traveling to a destination and they find 150 Airbnbs where the Airbnb is cheaper than what they would pay in the hotel, we're talking here about an undergraduate student who might be a little bit price sensitive, money-wise? Would you pay $150 for the hotel or $50 for the Airbnb? Airbnb. And boom, that hotel has one room less that night. What is the important part of running a hotel? Occupancy. So now we end up with 50 students not taking the hotel rooms. Now you're down to 66% occupancy at that night. Because 150, 50. Huh? So that's the problem.
But what if say those 50 students also needed a workspace, and Airbnb couldn't provide that? It's another advantage. Hotels, they might.
Yeah, I wanted to go the other way around and say, well, what about you traveling on spring break and get one hotel room that fits 2 queen-size beds, and you're sleeping with 8 people in there because you're flexible young bodies and you can just pile each other right next to each other like sardines in a. It's very fun, but if you're down during spring break in March in Key West and you walk by the cheaper places and you see the rooms open, you will see at least 3 or how much? We saw 8 people in a 2-people bed. Just walking by, like 8 suitcases or trolleys. Yeah, whole load of people. It's kind of interesting to see. Yeah? So observe. It's fun stories. Yes, please.
The question is, could it do like a Comic-Con? Could Airbnb do a Comic-Con? I think more around this point. Could it fill up 150,000 people? No. And then another thing too, like my friend's actually moving down to Brickell, and he was looking at a lot of places, and he's actually considering just renting through Airbnb rather than going through HOA, condo association, or a guy who owns a place down there.
In some places, Key West is one of those. Resort towns in general, mountain resorts as an example, they do not allow short-term leases like Airbnb. You're only allowed to have a short-term lease like by night or by week if you're a hotel and if you have a license for that. So that's the reason why they think Airbnb in Key West, like in the old town Key West, is completely eradicated. What you can find is hotels using Airbnb as an outlet, marketing outlet, and the boats. So you can hang out on a single boat for doing a weekend down there if you want. But you can't really do that like here in Davie or in Dania Beach when you fly in, you want to stay for 4 or 5 days and you just get a cheap place for $50 a month. Interesting concept. One interesting concept here as well is the costs to provide that kind of bed is priced in a personal home mortgage. It's not priced into a commercial product like a hotel. So that could be a question that Foggy would ask you, calculate the different mortgage rates and the different impacts. I don't. Alright, location. We did talk about that, just run through this. Downtown suburbia, different prices, different destinations, transportation, airports, highways. The cool thing I put in here is cruise ships. Cruise ship is a floating city, 3,000 people for a week. A whole little German town floating in a boat. That's how I see it. When I was rich, my hometown was 4,000 people. Whole town. Hi, Mom. Yeah. And then special locations and historical places, of course. Historical places is fine. We run through this a little bit. Just remember, the beginning was again price and ownership. Same thing for residential. Same thing for hotel. Is the idea with same thing for office and residential counts here as well. Differentiated by. Put in couch surfing, Airbnb. Does couch surfing still exist? Yes. It's actually sleeping on someone's couch for free. And Airbnb was so attractive with, hey, I can rent out this whole bedroom. Why would I need to sleep on a couch? What happened? There are really cool couches in the world. Yeah. And then, and again, come back and catch up this. I would like to invite you guys for a discussion on this. What are the trends in hotels? When we talk about Airbnb and how it transforms maybe sectors of hotels and the branches, yeah? What do I mean with women travelers? Can you imagine some ideas about those trends? guys travel, don't you? Right. There you go. Where did you go last time for a fun trip, vacation trip?
Well, back home.
All right. Where's back home?
Antigua, the Caribbean.
Okay, cool. Kush. Where did you go for a fun vacation trip last time? Okay. Did you stay with family, or did you stay hotel, or does this fit? Do your travel fit somewhere in the categories here? No? Oh, I see. What about you? Travels, fun travels, vacation. Where did you go? Vegas. Okay, we don't know. You don't go to Vegas. What happens in Vegas? You know. Teddy?
Cuba.
Ooh. Wait. Real estate broker in Cuba trip? Yeah. They traveled last year in December, last time for fun? We need to change that. Alright. Well, what else? Holly, fun travel, vacation.
Cruise.
European cruise, where did you go?
Italy, France, Monaco.
Alright, Mediterranean. Okay. Melanie, fun time, fun cruise, fun vacation, where did you go?
DC.
Oh, DC. That's fun.
I like the historic aspect and the food. So.
Oh, yeah, I was in DC in November, taking my nephew there. Okay, fine, great.
See?
But I went over to Delaware to hang out with my old mentor, so combination trips. The reason why I bring up the trends is the idea that you actually have to consider what's going on. There's a bunch of single travelers now. You're not traveling anymore in a group. You're just backpacking, hop on a train or hop on a plane. Yeah? Generational, it's different. Yeah? Growing up in Europe, different generation, different patterns. My younger brother just would steal the car of my mom and I would run over to France, 6-hour ride, with his high school buddies to go to the European Disney. What are you laughing at?
Nothing about.
All right, Instagram and Snapchat is better than my lecture. The idea here is that you have maybe a gender-specific interest for traveling, or even here special sports. Yeah? Skiing in Florida is not really a thing, but you do ski travel. I asked last time, you guys have been all over the place. Yeah? So that's something to consider. I'm doing dive vacations. I'm flying out to meet old grad school friends and go diving with them. When I met those guys in grad school, I never thought about flying to see them and go diving. But the trip destination or the purpose here for my personal trend, is combining sports and friendship. Sightseeing, historical sites. It's different. It's also different in the US context. Going on a cruise, the European context is different. You fly somewhere on an island, you're staying in a club resort hotel, you hang out there, you do daily trips, hang out at the beach. Being on a cruise boat, as a floating hotel, you have to learn that concept. The Scandinavian people know that because they hop between Finland and Sweden all over the place because it's tax-free, duty-free shopping. So they have one party night with some really great buffet, and then one day of hangover and cultural trip in Stockholm and then going back, and vice versa. Yeah? So the whole concept in Europe about cruise boats, like we know here from the Caribbean, going down to Mexico or Caymans, completely different animal. Yeah? If Europeans think about cruises, they're thinking about Wales, Alaska. And considering the Caribbean. Flying to Miami and hopping on a cruise boat for 7 days, I would think this is a fairly new thing for Europe. Alright, so keep that in mind. The classic standard hotel needs to reform itself. We have seen that because they get transformations done all over the place, rehabs. Yeah? What was a Marriott might downgrade to a Holiday Inn at some time, by size and comfort. They might not have 20 people serving one customer anymore, one suite. They would say, need only 2 people in the reception, not 5. Yeah? It's a hard competition market. Yeah? Again here, travel data such as airline data is helpful. if you want to take a look at how many hotels do you need in a specific area close by to the airport, you might want to know how many millions of people are going through that airport on an annual basis, and how the timing works. Because let's say the cruise boat market here, they time the boats, the airline times the boats as well. You don't have to stay 2 days in Fort Lauderdale to do a cruise. You can fly in the morning, come here during the day via airplane, get a taxi or an Uber to the port, check in, 7 days later you come back on Sunday morning here at 8 or 9 o'clock, and you fly out during the day back home. There is no other cost or purchasing power capturing done in that trip. So when we talked last week about the American Dream Mall in Miami, one of the major things they need to do is capture those cruise boat people. Tourists that are flying in. The mall needs to be so attractive, from my point of view, that they can hold them for one more day. One more night in a hotel, feeds one more plate of appetizers and main course, somewhere in a restaurant, and maybe some transportation. And then this whole thing works with keeping money in the regional economy. Yeah? Let's speak about economic. I keep that short and as visual as possible. So in microeconomics we talk about supply and demand. You can't run a business if there's no demand for your product. Huh? Greatest business idea does not work if nobody knows about it and nobody has to decide to get that product. Doesn't work. I can have 1 million books in my warehouse. If I don't tell any one of you guys, hey, I wrote a book and it's really cool, nobody's going to buy it. The book market has so changed that, let's say, Amazon, you can actually buy books that are printed on demand. You buy a copy, the moment your order goes through, somewhere some machine kicks in, or some delay or something like that. Yeah? Or you create your own book, and you buy a minimum amount of pieces, but every time it's on the book on Amazon store for you, every time someone orders that, the 40 pages of your children's book are going to be printed and shipped. And you get maybe some money out of it. Yeah? So printed on demand is a new thing. So I don't have 10,000 copies of that book in my house, online, but I pay a price extra for the premium service. Okay. Supply and demand issues in a region can be tricky. If I have demand and supply, this is the 101 for microeconomics, I can have certain price points set up, yeah, with certain quantities. And this is time where we start sketching. Again, this is a 101 quick review on microeconomics here. I try to put that into a real estate perspective so that you don't fall asleep completely. It's like Jensen is like, oh my god, I'm scared. Microeconomics, demand and supply. You have a price, you have a quantity, and you have a demand and some supply. Okay? Simple systems, certain desires. The idea is to supply is what you have available, and demand is what you desire. Yeah? And you will find a point where you have an equilibrium between price of interest and a quantity of interest. Alright? We're not going to do complicated mathematics, and even not like we shift the demand and supply. I just want you guys remember there is in the market a certain point where we agree on the price and the supply. What did I do about the example with the warehousing? I said, hey, Because you are higher in the ceiling, you might be able to squeeze out 50 cents per square foot more in service and in price. Because you're having now a different supply, you might create better or interesting variations of the demand. You change the price. Yeah? The idea is basically to say demand and supply, even in Fort Lauderdale, works. Yeah? The book actually has the Fort Lauderdale as an example, in case you have seen that. It's like, whoa, we're talking about my neighborhood. We did last week, we did this kind of example, diamonds versus air, remember? Depending on your situation, the demand for air might change based on, or the demand for air is general breathing, but the supply might go down. Why? Because you're at 60 feet and the tank is going empty. Again, I want to invite you to scuba diving, not to scare you away, but low in air is a critical situation. All right, so in real estate, we have the same thing. But here we talk about the price or rent. And here is our space availability. Space. Huh? Same thing. We arbitrarily say, okay, this is our demand curve. Could be literally a curve as well. Huh? But for simple models, we're going to be simple in that example. The supply is a completely different story. Why? How are we going to deal with supply in real estate? Yeah.
Elucidate that question a little bit. Do you mean
how do we deal with supply in real estate?
We build it, or we buy it?
Build it or we buy it? Well, let's keep it with building it. Yeah? Because if you have apartment buildings already built, you have a fixed amount of supply. If you're looking at one hotel, it has 100 bedrooms. The only way to tweak that is you put multiple bodies into this one bed. Yeah? But in theory, you have X amount of beds means X amount of supply possible. Yeah? So that's a tricky part. So if you look at the supply, short term, you can argue it's stagnant. It's the same. 100 units. Long term, this is short term. Yeah? Long term, this whole thing can tilt in the long run. Why can it tilt? Because we're building more. What do we mean with we build more in terms of time? Is there a time delay? Yeah, you can't just say I'm building 100 new homes. It takes time to get approved, financing, feasibility, get this whole thing actually vertical, built out, and then sold or rented out. Huh? So what, 6 months, a year? So in office space, we had these few calculations. What could be the net demand office space if I have 2,500 people moving in as new employees? That means I will need to know what's in the pipeline, what's coming onto the market, aka take a look at who is building what and how many units are they going to put on the market. So current existing stock plus future stock, and then what else is being eaten up right now on a monthly basis. We call it absorption rate. Yeah? Those you get from market research and trends and all that. So you also know that in 2 years there are 300 more hotel rooms coming because they just open up the ground, the construction for that specific hotel. Hard Rock Hotel. The guitar, the day they broke ground or they announced they're going to break this project, you knew that the landscape of hotel business will change over time because you're adding more beds to the capacity of this area. Yeah? So you also can argue as a follow-up, we're actually what we call a kinked supply curve. You have a specific capacity as a supply, and then you actually have an event and you say, okay, fine, my supply curve goes like this. Yeah? So if you talk about this again, I have my P1, I have a Q1 here, and that kink means that this is the moment where it is actually now eventually cheaper to build new capacity than to stay stagnant. Why? Because if I look here at this example, I have a higher price now for new stock coming in. Yeah? So there's a specific moment where the market, here, market doesn't pay what it will cost to add new stock or inventory below that kink or corner solution. Yeah? And beyond that point here, when you get that slope in, it is actually now cheaper, making money then in this case, to add new material, new stock to the market. Until here, in that area here, we have reuse, but no to new build. That's as much as we go in depth into microeconomics and the purpose of this class. There's a whole 4 or 5 pages of microeconomic models you can see in the chapter. What I want you to understand is that we have, in real estate, we have a different problem. We have a specific delay in the market based on inventory generation. And we only generate inventory when the price is right to build that. When we talk about gasoline prices, $2.60, something like that, $2.50, yeah, versus $5. If transportation costs are getting more and more expensive, building expensive places close by is getting more feasible. Because people are counting the transportation costs now. If you think you live in Weston, commute in 45 minutes, depending on traffic, but your commute is going up by 30% in cost, you might consider not renting in Weston anymore. You might consider renting in downtown or close to downtown and walk to work. Yeah? Whole different concept. We're not talking about that. Just want to point it out. All right? Any questions about that? All right. So let me ask you one thing. If you do this now in space, how does this look when you actually compute rents in space, as in the distances from certain locations? Any idea? Let's see. Do I have a PowerPoint slide for that? Not yet. You can't skip that. That's in the book. Shows you how this whole thing works with supply and demand, and how this works into actually in the real estate complex idea. Anyone heard from? Oh, switch up. Anyone heard from a guy called Mr. Von Thunen? Transportation rates? South Germany? Anyone South Germany? You never heard about a guy called Von Thunen? Geography education in Germany has changed.
He's not very amazing.
Von Thunen? The UE? Yeah. Alright, little sketch. So, you follow me with the demand curve. Yeah? Whether you're saying different type of demands I can display right now. What's so funny on your cell phone? You keep giggling and typing.
Oh, I was talking to my sister.
Hmm?
I was talking to my sister.
Well, tell your sister you have my full attention for the next 90 minutes. I try to be 1 hour of your attention. But we all put a lot of effort in to stay awake and deliver knowledge to you. Please. Alright? So, think about this idea. Before refrigeration was invented, before refrigeration in a truck was invented, there was ice, but not like the air conditioning units or freezer units. Certain land uses have been in different places away from the city. Yeah? They have to overcome that distance to travel. So if you have a specific good, like meat, grain, waste, you will have that in a certain desirable distance to that location. So this guy from Thünen argued that this is the reason why we blocked that into the idea of microeconomics. That you have a rent based on the location, let's say, to the city. Yeah? And you have certain utility functions and returns of rent based on your distance. Yeah? Let's say miles. The system is built on distance in general. So, if you live close to the city, it's fairly okay to understand the closer you live to the city, the more you're going to pay for the city. Okay? Actually, what I'm going to sketch is in the book. So you have residential as an example here with a high rent. And the more farther out you go, the less you're going to pay at that time when this was built or designed. This is before we had interstate system. No? It's before we had individual transportation. Just saying, this is before we had ice cooling trucks. Gives you an idea, this is not the youngest model, but it still works. It works for every model in real estate development we do for land price. Right, so this is, let's say, residential. All right? Then, make this short, say dairy farming has a different rent curve. All right? And it's so funny actually because half of Miami, today's Miami, 40 years ago was dairy farming land. Huh? Think about that. If you go to Kendall today, this used to be farmland. So very interesting. If you go take old pictures, aerial photography, old street maps, it's fascinating. Huh? Same thing here with grain production, let's say wheat. And I skipped or grazing. Countryside grazing. Gotta get some meat stuff. Right. So, different demand curves. What happens when demand or utility function like this crosses? You flip from one to the other use. Because you're making more money with the other one, or less money. Does it make sense? So I'm looking at these points. Dairy into wheat, wheat into grazing, and then grazing. And the same thing, like we do this with simple macroeconomic models. Every time our curves are crossing, something special happens. So you draw a line down here, down here, down here, and down here. And this guy from Thünen came up with the idea and saying, you know what? Because you also have different price points. Well, if you draw that, spin this around, you're starting to draw circles. Where this is residential, this is dairy, wheat, grazing. Do you follow on that? Right.
What's the point of the circles?
That's where, let's make this a separate part. So if you have here, this again, let's say for residential, going down here, and you have one other use. That circle point is where your land uses switch between this use and this use based on distance and the money you can make. Alright? Make sense? At a certain point, of travel are more satisfied with a different land use and its cost associated to it.
The first one is residential, the second.
This classic example is residential dairy, wheat production like grains, and then grazing. Huh? So how does this look like in modern world and in real estate?
General question.
Yes.
Why did you draw the circles coming from like the first point of equilibrium, yet the second and third circles for dairy and wheat are on the actual?
Yeah, that's what's messing me up too.
Oh, this
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Here.
Is it from? Oh, okay. It's from.
Sorry, this is the. It looks different if you're that close. I have a computerized image. Sorry. Here. Seven times. I'm going to cut this one off. My experience, if you draw it step by step, and you have someone help join you to draw, it's easier to understand. This is where we have the equilibriums or the utilities crossing. Draw down, good catch, thank you for clarification. And you have created then those circles. Yeah? Basically like take this in a plane and draw around. Yeah?
So when you make the circles, you still have the whole graph above it always, right? Like they won't display just the circles and tell you to analyze it?
Well, what you do is you do the graph,
Right.
being informed as demand and supplies and utility function for microeconomic theory. And you basically say, this is my distance, this is my economic rent. Yeah? And then you say, where this drops in a 2D world, this drops here, you could say, okay, find this the relationship between this one and the height of this one. But what if this is a location in space? And you say, hey, this is, let's say, 1 mile. To mimic that in space, what you would do is you have the location downtown, and you draw a circle around this, radius 1 mile. So this is just the idea of, this is my downtown, I'm drawing 1 mile around. Yeah? That's the reason why it comes into circles. In a perfect world, this would be a circle. If you have an ocean there with a port like Miami, it changes because the mode of transportation is changing. The important part, what I want to show you is, this is the old model, you're like, duh, no refrigeration. In real estate, let's say this is the example for office pricing. Yeah? Shopping zone, commercial office, residential zone. Same concept. Yeah? Remember that slide we had with the regional markets? Same concept here. Oh. Where's the regional markets? Show that. Rent per acres, distance from the center. But now I'm creating my little tiny central place thing, Fortune thing here. I have different bid rents. So whenever you hear a bid rent curve, we're going back to the distances of wheat, grazing, and dairy. This one here. Yeah? Same economic theory, which is kind of charming. If you understand that people would not travel that far on a regular basis, you also kind of understand why suddenly the office market can run the same thing. Residential market is a little bit slightly different because it comes to other places. Residential market nowadays is not just driven by distance from the city center. Think about that. If you have a really bad school district here, housing prices are down in the bottom. I would say housing prices are more driven by schools and education nowadays, if you look at families, than location from distance to a center. Yeah? If you have a really bad school district on one side and a good school district on the other side of the street, across the street, housing prices will be more expensive because your kids are going into a different school district. They play with the other kids across the street. sometimes they stop playing because they don't have the social interaction because they stay all day in school, but it's different. All right, so bit rent curve, von Thünen, rings of von Thünen, transportation rings as an example from the book. That's the reason why I brought it up. It's really cool to see. And you can now start to explain the urban form. With technology change, no refrigeration, you can now also consider different forms of placements in space. This is an example for the ice cream guys, hoteling, when you have a magnet site. Let's say you have a really, really cool tourist attraction. Or intercoastal downtown South Fort Lauderdale. Rent prices, as in land rent, not rental unit price, is definitely higher there than kilometers or miles far away. Yeah? I'm living in Plantation, I am not paying for the magnet side of the intercoastal water traffic. I'm not. I don't have that part of it. Yeah? My displacement cost is, my Uber is $30 to downtown. That's my personal cost I have to pay per trip if I want to do that. All right, speaking of concentric growth model, what did we just talk about? Land rent from a city center far, far away. City center, the farther you go out, you have different changes in zones. Now express that in zones of land uses. Transition, worker homes back then, middle age, yeah, or middle income, high income, and then commuters, far, far away. Makes sense, huh? We just learned the economics behind that idea. Still concentric rings. Then there's this guy called Hoyt. Came up with the idea that what if I interrupt my concentric rings with transportation lines, interstates, traffic roads, I-95, 595, Turnpike, 75. You suddenly have these kind of corridors growing up. Yeah? And depending on the location, this is again still dated, 60s. Yeah? You have manufacturing in here, local income residential, and the other forms of residential here as like an elite quarter for residential. If you look where Hoyt did research and you think about cities that could look like this, take a look at Chicago. And just say, somewhere here is a lake. Yeah? Or you could also say, take a look if you can find this in all the urban centers coming down from Homestead, Miami, South Beach, etc., up to West Palm Beach. You will find certain patterns like this. Again, a little bit different because we have natural boundaries to the east and to the west. Then we have the corridor model. Then we have the multiple nuclei model. Why? Because over time, downtown is too expensive. You create a subcenter here, like in number 7, outlying business districts. That does look like us. Not anymore Miami, not anymore downtown Fort Lauderdale. Now we have a sunrise popping up. Now we have a Coral Springs popping up. A Candle. Flip this. This is Miami. This is Candle. Yeah, you twist, mirror that. Think about that. There are different concepts just based on the idea of where you're at right now in relationship to some other place. How much is your land rent, your bid rent, so-called bid rent curve. Yeah? Which leads me into the idea of why is urban form so important. And this is the point where I asked you guys, how many minutes do you travel for this class? How far away do you live to travel to this class? And this is an interesting experience because some of you might still live on campus and you might answer 5 minutes walk. I know you live in Kendall, you work in Miami, but you live in Plantation, you told me. Yeah? So, think about that. Major employment center, where people live and where they run. And the classic example is your personal experience. How far away do you live from your workplace for a daily commute? and how far away you live from this place as your education. And if you have that conversation with your friends that do not live in the dorms on campus, you will be surprisingly shocked how much time they accept to be okay in a car. It's fascinating to me. I freak out when I leave the campus on the wrong time of the day and I get stuck for 40 minutes on University Drive or Nob Hill. I drive in depending on mornings. If I drive outside of rush hour and school drop-off time, it takes me 15 minutes one way. Speed limit, and I don't run red lights. Yeah? Perfect home commute after class is 13 minutes because for some reason I have at 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m. I have perfect green lights. No red light for all the section. Yeah? I have students in the graduate program that would commute 90 minutes. Actually, right now I have 2 students. One is in Jacksonville. Comes down here on Friday to have Saturday class. The other one leaves early in the morning to show up on time for an 8 o'clock class, and she commutes 2.5, 3 hours already. And she runs with me 2 classes and then tries back.
Yeah, it's just once a week, right?
Yeah, but you drop like 5 to 6 hours of commute for 8 hours education. You think you were tired after 3.5 hours with me tonight? Think about that, you're doing this in 2 different sets of classes with half an hour lunch break. There's no nap time in between, besides you black out maybe. Yeah. At that night, students fall asleep, 7 o'clock in the evening, roll your eyes. Okay, now we have to take a break. Think about it. Those who commute to campus for classes, do you commute within half an hour one-way trip? Who's more than half an hour one-way trip? All right. For work, how far do you commute for work? Kind of tricky in undergraduate class, where you're pretty much full time. Yeah? We have one student who commutes what? An hour a day one way? You commute about an hour one way?
One way,
One way down to Miami, 1 hour?
45 minutes.
Yeah.
Depending on the traffic, I work in Miami too.
Or when I.
Depending on traffic, that's a huge hallelujah.
But when you are coming back, it's an hour and a half.
Yeah. I don't leave campus at 5 o'clock p.m. when I'm on campus. I leave at 7 or 4:50. Yeah? To avoid that traffic jam just for the 5.5, 6 miles I live far away. It's crazy. And the acceptance we find here in this region for our commutes is interesting to see. I had a friend who used to work for Florida Atlantic University, moved out to Idaho, do pretty much the same thing he did down there. He changed from living in Plantation at University and Sunrise, I think, in that area, commuting up to FAU from 45 minutes to an hour, if not 2 hours, depending on traffic, to a 5-minute bike ride. He dropped 30 pounds in the first year working in the new place because he commuted 5 minutes one way, in the morning a little bit longer because he dropped off the kid on a bicycle. Just think about that. You think about being a property manager, you don't need to be a property manager in South Florida. You might be able to do this somewhere else where your work time is fun and your commute time is super, super short.
The license is gonna be the same in every single state?
I don't know. Property management license? I don't know. But something to consider, the time you spend in your car. There's only such amount of music and audiobooks you can hear. And having a sandwich or a banana and a coffee in the car is not really pleasant every time. It's more fun to have that in the kitchen and that commute short. Alright? So, why is urban farming important? Because your life depends on it. Stress level depends on it. How many times do you get in road rage because people cannot drive the right way?
Every day, Florida.
Every day. Most time I speak German is behind my driving wheel. Huh? Eloquently South German dialect. Bavarian actually. This is actually other dialect. Alright, good. spatial models look. You did that. You said something about, you said that example of the beach and ice cream last time, I think?
Yes.
Was it? Alright, we're going to talk about this. This is a guy called hotelling. I have a bunch of slides and I think we are going to get out early today. I have like 20 slides and 15 are the same one, like one more step instead of 20. See, he's like, yes. Alright. Some preview, why is this important? So we had urban form, we had all the economic models that explain you what's going on over time in a region. So based on tonight, you can take a look at South Florida, let's say Fort Lauderdale, following 595 out to the Everglades, and you can look when was what built, and you get an understanding, okay, fine, there has been some trials. And you can even draw a diagram and say, yeah, I understand the supply and demand for that big rent curve, etc. Yeah? Yay, great. So what is the problem if you're a property manager and you have another property popping up somewhere, competition across the street? Yeah? And that's the reason why this example is so interesting. Why? Because this guy argued if a city would be a linear concept, and this example, the classic example is ice cream vendors at the beach, because the beach is pretty much linear. Yeah? You can alternate a little bit, but up here, down there. The argument was, what if you have two shops, where will your customer go? Ring a bell? Burger King, McDonald's, Wawa versus Taco Bell? All right? This is the physics and economic dynamics behind that. Super simple, with very, very bizarre little icons you can find in PowerPoint. All right? So, hotel and beach, classic example. Where would you place the ice cream shops? If you have 3 locations, where would you place them?
B.
All right, we have both of them.
Yeah.
You would place them both on B. Do I hear other opinions?
A and C.
A and C. Do I hear other opinions? All right.
All we have is both and some.
You have 2 ice cream vendors and you have 3 locations, A, B, and C. Where would you place those 2 ice cream shops? A and C. All right. We have 1 B, 2 times A and C. Do I hear other opinions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Because when I'm seeing that picture, I have an idea on Deerfield Beach. Deerfield Beach, there is a corner, there is a big hotel, and the beach is 1 block. And there is a very nice place where they offer 1 hour parking if you buy.
Completely different. It's
But
stay
is-
simple with
but,
ice cream.
My question is that 1 block or it's just straight on the beach?
Just somewhere along the beach.
The ice is going to start melting.
You have ice. Don't worry about the ice melting. If you have this beach and you have those 2 ice cream shops on 3 positions, A, B, and C. He says both on B. We have 2 times. Let's do A and B. A and C. Do we hear someone who wants an A and B or B and C?
B.
B, 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 B? Okay, let's talk about this. All right. So, the market is your linear city, okay? Wrong letter. Somewhere far left, somewhere out far right. This would be C in this case. Sorry, wrong letter. All right? So I have 2 shops, and I want to know where I place them. Huh? Where would I get my customers? Well, if I place them here, I skim off the customers that are close by here. What about the customers in between? How do I divide them with my competition? Yeah? So, right now, sounds okay. I get the backyard customers here, this guy gets the other ones. That's not enough for me. I want to sell all my ice cream, I want to dominate the market. You know? I want to be the guy who puts the Big Macs out, not the Whoppers. Yeah? So how do I get those guys in between? And we see that last week. There's physical gravity models and retail models to determine there's a point where the market cuts off this way or this way. You agree with me? You following? There's a certain distance where I can't reach the other guys anymore. Why? Because if I'm here, or the other guys, the customer is here, and the customer wants just a simple vanilla ice cream. Vanilla here, vanilla here. This customer is indifferent to go this way or this way. How do I make this customer come to me? I change my product, vanilla ice cream with free sprinkles on top. Yeah, all the kids love that. Yeah. Or I get closer to this guy. Why? Because the utility travel is now different. Oh, I just said something. Utility and travel. So there's this old saying, the profit doesn't come to the mountain has to come to the profit. No? Straight up to your front door. If you don't come to my shop, I sell it straight up to the door. So I can present this straight up and say, to jump here a little bit to shape of diagrams. If this is a consumer here, and I am here with the shop, remember I talked about friction in space, the willingness to travel for a loaf of bread versus MSRED? Think about that. That is the willingness to travel to get that bowl or scoop of ice cream. If I'm far away, they're not coming. Unless you're nitrogen-cooled ice cream with super, super duper gadgets in between. Like you bite on it and you have like beetle water like from Harry Potter. You know? So, the only way to deal with this, if I have two markets, two customers now, at some point, the willingness to travel meets. This is the point that is the farthest a customer for ice cream will come to me from here to here. So I will, remember this one? We just did that. It's the same concept. I will place my ice cream shops on the position he named B, in the middle of that market. Same thing with Burger King and McDonald's. This was very quick, but again, if you have a linear market, like a beach, and you have two ice cream shops that compete with each other, the best way to get the most customers for each of you is to stay here in the middle, and instead of just vanilla, start vanilla with toppings, add chocolate and raspberry ice cream. Because you're competing not anymore about the location, then you're competing about the product mix. So if this is your property management problem, you have two apartment buildings right next to each other. You pretty much have, let's say, if it's student housing, you pretty much have the same customer clients, students of the universities close by. And the only way you somewhat can compete is pricing, product mix, laundry machines for free on site or not, great pool or not, or lifestyle. Really great pool house or clubhouse, free drinks, happy hour at 5 o'clock. I make up a few things, but I'm pretty sure we have that kind of places already. Yeah? 24/7, up to date, awesome, all like LA fitness style gym on site, free for everyone who rents at my place. Yeah? So when you're here, your product mix, your amenities, and the way you charm your customers becomes important. Lessons learned. What did you learn tonight? Everyone has a preference. Everyone has a desire to do something, to buy something, to travel for something. Huh? Starts with little things. Teddy mentioned Cuba. And I'm going to hop on a boat for 7 days to travel in a nice pleasant way. for a certain cost, maybe. Or I'm hopping on a non-stop flight from Fort Lauderdale to Havana, get a cab, and just hang out a day or two in Havana itself in a hotel. For actually less, but a little bit different stress and travel and arrangements. Yeah? Same thing, do I need to sit at the beach? Let's make this really, really bizarre. Blanket on the beach, laying on the night, watching the stars, or going to the planetarium. And here a scientific display of how the universe ended. Different preferences and different price utility functions. On that note, if you've never been to the Frost Science Museum down in Miami, it's really great. Yeah? Consumers have different utility functions. Desires and elasticity when it comes to the prices. As in, I don't want to pay $5 for one scoop of ice cream. Versus, oh, that's really worth it. Yeah? Same thing when you do property management, depending on what kind of property type you do. Residential, office, retail, resort towns. It depends on your consumer preferences how you will be able to deliver services as well. Yeah? A motel will be different than the Hyatt. One thing is the same. One thing between a motel and a Hyatt is always the same. What?
They have a bed.
Yes, but you're the service provider right now. I just said it. You're providing services. Even if it's a $40 motel, you gotta be friendly to the customers. Service orientation in your attitude is always important. All right, now all set. Ooh, 2 more slides. This is what we're going to do next week. Because I figured I'd bombard you this week with a little bit shorter but detailed, covering everything. And then next week we're putting this one in place for another theory and understanding. You can do tons of calculations in Excel with this, not even demonstrating it. But I want you to understand, this goes back again with base multipliers. I want to give you next week about 10 minutes more time in terms of regional economics and how this works when you look at actually national data. Yeah? For those who are in business administration, that's really good information to actually then do some marketing and strategic segmentation. Yeah? For those who are thinking about doing some regional work at some time in their lives, this is important when you talk about policy, even if you're an environmental friendly, like marine bio. If you understand this, you can talk state taxes, economic zones, and natural protection zones. Why? Because you can argue what does this mean in dollars when you make this one happen versus this one. Just to give you an idea. All right, spatial models. If we talk about economies, there's something about trade and import and export. Yeah? If we talk about economies at the regional level, let's say Broward County is one of our regional geographic units. Not just a small city, let's make a bigger animals, so there's actually some dynamics internally and externally. Yeah? So you have something else in the local economy, other businesses, but you have businesses and households. You have cycles of revenues and resources coming along, and we divide our industry in non-basics and basic sectors. Okay? This is a teaser. We're not talking in detail about that. In short, a basic sector presents a value to the community and the region because it draws employment or generates employment in the non-basic. The basic sector delivers export functions and goods. My example with the base multiplier earlier, when I say a base multiplier of 5, means I can run all these numbers. Here, ratio of local employment in a year to, this is the equation. Craziness, no? Not using computations right now. The understanding is that you can divide whatever you have as industries in your region into these sectors based on their productivity in that region. And all this economic policy talk depends on this. When you see, hey, Amazon headquarters, yeah, all this discussion around that, we want Amazon headquarters. Why? Because they bring in employees, they are in a specific service industry. That service industry has a specific ranking for us, generating ripple effects. Again, the example was HP plotter division engineers. Or I bring in 1,000 new employees, I'm a member of that kind of sector, let's say hospital versus finance, different services. Yeah? They would compute a different location quotient for these two sectors, causing different impacts in the economics of your region. All right? Lessons learned for today. I hope I gave you an idea how this curve, this sketch, has a better explanation after today. Yeah? You understand why we're talking about regional shopping center on those two arrows, the blue arrows. Yeah? My final question for you today, I see he's like jumping. How does this all relate to property management? Go ahead, everyone thinks about that.
I mean, property management and buildings, a business. You have to
All right.
treat it like a business, because it is competing.
You talked a lot about occupancy, and in order to like efficiently manage your property, like you have to really make sure that you have like you have space that's occupied and not vacant.
All right. Therefore, what you need is a vibrant and healthy